You know, this has really been a kind of a special day in high school football.
Yeah, it really has. You know, we've got the stands here on both sides are packed. The people are lining the chain link fence on both sides. And, you know, this, I guess, John, when all is said and done, forgetting who you root for, and it really doesn't matter. You know, if you're looking at what the essence of high school football is all about, all you need to do is pan around here and take a look, because this is what it's all about. Community spirit, enthusiasm, hopefully true great football teams, a super rivalry, and hopefully what will become a great game.
You know, the rivalry should be renewed, and some have said in the past that the Tupper Lake Saranac Lake rivalry lost a little bit of its flavor because it really didn't mean anything other than the Mayor's Cup. But both these teams right now are looking at postseason play, and we're not jumping too far ahead right now by saying that the loser of this game will have a long and hard road to hoe if they have any hopes of playing for the Class C title in Section 7.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Now, the wild card in this whole scenario is Seton Catholic, because Seton Catholic is returning some key players as well. And Saranac Lake, by
Cheney as well as Kivlin are the offensive tackles. Ian Saran is the tight end. Saranac Lake will work out of the wishbone on their first play. Chris Lapierre is the quarterback, number 10. They'll hand it off to Roberts. Roberts will fight his way towards the 35 and pick up 5 yards on the carry. Jeremy Rich is the fullback. Ryan Roberts is the tailback. Once more, Chris Lapierre is the quarterback with Finnegan and Van Deen, the receivers.
Interesting to watch the Tupper Lake defense on that first play. They ran with their basic defensive line, and then they had their linebackers in a standard set and their secondary in a standard set. So I think they're expecting Saranac Lake to do a lot more passing, and they're not as tight as you would think right on the line to begin with.
Mark Van Deen is the wide receiver on the right side. The slot receiver is Finnegan out of the I formation. Second down and 5. Lapierre wants to throw as he rolls out. Looking down the field, in the flat, and incomplete.
Looks like it was Eric Staves out protecting the lane that time, and really did not give Lapierre much of a pocket to work with, much of an area to throw into. He really cut the passing lane off that time.
Yeah, Brandon Macy was the intended receiver for the Redskins. Well, we did see the strong arm. He tried to zip it right in there.
Yeah, and he was doing it from a rollout. So obviously they're already respecting that defensive front four of Tupper Lake and are anticipating they are going to get some pressure.
Finnegan is the wide receiver on the right side. Once more out of the wishbone formation. We're looking now at 3rd down and 5 for Saranac Lake from their own 35-yard line. They'll pitch it to Roberts. Roberts wants to move around the end. He's caught in the backfield and thrown for a loss.
Eric Staves again. Nice job by Staves. Staves fought off a block and was able to get Roberts down before he could turn it up. If they were able to get Staves blocked, they might have been able to cut the corner and get that first down, but Staves did a nice job holding his ground and making the tackle.
Roberts is thrown for a 2-yard loss, so 4th down and 8 for Saranac Lake. They're going to move him as a 3-yard loss. Jeremy Rich will punt it away for Saranac Lake. Sean Savard, one of the deep receivers for Tupper Lake, and also Jason Fuller. Rich, a good, high, booming kick. Savard underneath it at his 22-yard line. Brandon Macy couldn't wrap him up. Savard will pick up a couple of more yards inside the 25-yard line.
Nice job that time by Savard ducking the initial, but Saranac Lake did a good job. Actually, there was good coverage on the punt team that time. Saranac Lake only had one shirt down there for, on the initial catch, but eventually the pursuit did catch up with Savard, and they did get him down.
So Savard, an 8-yard return, 1st and 10 for Tupper Lake from their own 30-yard line. Beats is at center. Button and Bador are the guards. Russell, as well as Amel, are the tackles. Brian Tynan is the tight end. Lemire and Ham will be the running backs, along with Sean Savard, and Paul Pickering is the quarterback. First carry from Jason Ham around the end.
Nice job that time by Mark Van Deen. Van Deen ran around the block and actually was trailing the play and was actually able to knock him off his feet for little or nothing.
He picked up 2 on the carry, so 2nd down and 8 for Tupper Lake. Defensively, the Redskins line up like this with Sutton and Harvey, the tackles, the ends, Ian Zaran and Sullivan. The linebackers, Leahy, Leclerc, and Rich, who was the free safety, the monster back last year, and also all CVAC moves to the linebacker position. Macy and Van Deen are the safeties. Burns and Finnegan are the corners. Redskins stuffed that run up the middle. That was Pete Lemire, the ball carrier for the Lumberjacks.
And remember what I told you. For Tupper Lake to have success in this game, they really need to establish their running game, which is what they're trying to do right now. That time they tried to do it with a little counter move, and Saranac Lake stayed at home and played it very well.
It's a loss of 3 yards, 3rd down and 13. Savard is the wide receiver right side. The slot receiver is Brian Tynan. Pickering in the flats, deflected and almost intercepted. And like the Saranac Lake Redskins, Tupper Lake 3 and done. They're forced to kick it away.
Yeah, that time nice pass, but Saranac Lake was all over it. Van Deen, if he had turned around, could have gotten a deflection for an interception, but was paying attention to his man, never saw the pass coming. So far, both defenses have established themselves. And, one of the things that may be a key in this game, when you have 2 good teams, one of the things you have to think about is turnovers.
Yes.
Will turnovers play a role in this game? They could very well before the game is out.
Ryan Roberts set to receive from his own 41-yard line. Paul Pickering, the punter for the Lumberjacks. End over end. Roberts will call for the fair catch. And he'll call for the fair catch at the 47-yard line. So good field position for Saranac Lake as they begin their second drive with 8:43 in the first quarter. No score. You are watching high school football on Adelphia Cable. John Lundin along with Roy Christopherson on a beautiful day. Light breeze blowing from our right to left on a brand new Rotary Athletic Field. And everybody has been praising this field, the game officials too. There's picnic areas, fantastic food, and quite a crowd here. Van Deen, the wide receiver on the right side. Split back formation. They run it up the middle on a draw play. That was Jeremy Rich, the fullback, with the carry. And he'll cross into Tupper Lake territory.
And again, Saranac Lake, like we said, has an awful lot of balance. They probably will pass the ball more this year because they've got a great complement of receivers. But the truth of the matter is that, you know, they can hurt you both ways. And for Tupper Lake, they've got to play looser than they may want to because of that fact.
Gain of 6 on Rich's first carry of the ball game from the 48-yard line. Rich once more, and Rich will pick up the first down as he picks up 7 more. And that's the way that Jeremy Rich likes to run. Head down, he's looking for somebody to hit.
Yeah, and what's interesting right now is it looks like they have a backer keying on Ryan Roberts. I thought I saw Brian Tynan really following Roberts wherever he goes. So I think what they're doing in these last few cases is they've been using Roberts, you know, and then just running off of whatever he does, run him away from the play, and then bring your running back into the point of attack, and that's where they're finding some success.
Well, Jeremy Rich gained the first down of the ball game from the Tupper Lake 41-yard line. 1st and 10, Saranac Lake with Van Deen, the wide receiver left side. Rich and Roberts, the running backs. They'll option it to Roberts. Roberts has some room around the end. He's got the sideline, and he is stood up by Sean Savard inside the 15-yard line of Tupper Lake.
And again, Saranac Lake does this so well. And what set this whole thing up, John, is the fact that they were able to run inside. If Tupper Lake has to do anything against the Saranac Lake team, they have to shut down the run between the tackles, because that's what sets up those option pitches to the outside or any of the wide runs that Saranac Lake will attempt to do in this game. And that's where they're at their most dangerous, when they're able to run in the open field like that.
1st and 10 for Saranac Lake from the 15-yard line of Tupper Lake. Consecutive first downs for the Redskins as they're marching the ball down the field. Ryan Roberts, with the carry. He runs between guard and tackle left side.
He got popped on the line of scrimmage by Dave Bedore and actually slid under him. Bedore couldn't wrap him up, slid under him, and picked up another 3 or 4 yards. It was nice. Putting together a nice drive, and ultimately, when you look at it, John, it was all on the ground. And you know what this does? The scary part of this whole thing for Tupper Lake, if you're Dennis Klausner, has to be, if they're scoring on the ground and I start bringing in my people to provide run support, then what happens if they go to the air?
That's exactly right. Jeremy Rich set to kick the point after try. Ball's down. Kick is up. And it's good. So it's 7-0 Saranac Lake, and we are at the 6:41 mark of the opening quarter.
Well, I don't know what you say. Saranac Lake, you know, it's kind of like the old saying, you know. If somebody's at the top of the mountain, the only way that you're going to succeed them is to knock them off. And you know, Saranac Lake has been at the top of the mountain quite a bit. They have a lot of pride. I'm sure that Saranac Lake has heard a lot of talk about Tupper Lake and how good Tupper Lake is this year. And I think Saranac Lake is trying to send a message of how good they are. And they did a nice job of it then, and again, strictly on the ground. But if Tupper Lake has to be concerned with anything, it's stopping the runs between the tackles. They have to do that to have success against Saranac Lake.
Well, Casey Pickering is back deep for Tupper Lake to receive the kickoff. Jason Ham also back deep for the Lumberjacks. To kick it away for Saranac Lake, Jim Leahy. End over end line drive kick. It's caught by Brendan Hayes. Hayes is tripped up. Actually, he picks up about 15 yards on the return. So 1st and 10 for the Lumberjacks on their second offensive possession from their own 20-yard line.
give Saranac Lake credit, and what a boot Leahy put into that. I mean, he really has given Tupper Lake something I don't think they expected. You know, Saranac Lake, they kick them little nubbers along the ground. That's always been their way of doing things, and I think they probably crossed Tupper Lake up, even though Tupper Lake had people back. I don't think they were expecting that, and they start deeper in their zone than they probably anticipated they would.
1st and 10 for the Jacks, trailing 7-0. 6:35 to play in the opening quarter. Tupper Lake pitches it. That's Jason Ham. Not a lot of room to work with. Ian Zaran was there to finish the tackle for the Redskins.
And you know, the key and the difference between Saranac Lake and Tupper Lake, and I don't mean to try to draw the two of them as a parallel, but really these two teams are very, very similar in their offensive structure. The reason the outside run isn't working for Tupper Lake is they haven't been able to establish the inside run. And, you know, you say, well, there's a difference, inside-outside, but believe me, in offensive game plans, one thing sets up another thing.
No gain, so 2nd and 10. But Klasner, like John Raymond, have said that they're going to open things up a little bit more this year and add a few wrinkles. But this seems to be the same old smash-mouth football that we've come to expect from both Tupper Lake and Saranac Lake.
Well, you know, I'll tell you something. If you can't establish your base package of offense, new wrinkles don't work. At least that's what I've found. I mean, a wrinkle generally will not work if you can't get the basic off tackle, up the middle,
right.
The stuff that is really going to ultimately be your bread and butter. If that doesn't work, then it doesn't matter what you throw at them. You know, you can bring a 12th player on the field. That probably wouldn't work either.
Well, Coach Klasner wants to call a timeout. He does so after a 1-yard gain. 3rd down and 9 for Tupper Lake from their own 21-yard line. At the half, Roy, we still got 5 minutes and 28 seconds to play in the opening quarter. We have quite a bit to talk about. There was the opener last night at Bailey Avenue Field, a little bit of a shocker in terms of how Sable Valley and Plattsburgh finished up. Sable Valley came out on top there, but they set the tone early, not with defense, but with offense.
Yes, they did, and with a second-string quarterback.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep. We also have a few other things we're going to be talking about during the halftime show. We've got some new rule changes that are going to be affecting high school football this year. Not too many modifications, but we'll talk about what they are. And also, we're going to maybe take a little insight into some of the other teams in the Champlain Valley Athletic Conference this year and kind of give you a sneak preview on what CVAC football will look like. And if we have time, we might even talk briefly about how Division II football down in the Capital District is going to shape up.
You know, though, I think that this year it's going to be more balanced than what we saw last year. I don't think you're going to see a team run away with a division title like Saranac Lake did last season.
No, I don't think you will either. The league was down last year. Coaches didn't want to admit it, but it was. But a lot of players are coming back this year for a second year, and it's going to be a better season all the way around.
Pickering throws it right into the arms of a Saranac Lake defender and turns it over. The first turnover of the ball game. Pickering never even saw him.
No, and again, if you're Tupper Lake, you have to be sitting there saying to yourself, oh, no, not again. Because you remember in the JV game when Tupper Lake got on top, all of a sudden it was like a completely different team.
Yes.
However, with Saranac Lake going on top, maybe one of the things we haven't talked about is what's Tupper Lake's reaction to that, because they've been there before.
Well, the Redskins will send out 2 wide receivers, Van Deen and Finnegan. Finnegan is on the near side. Split back formation with Rich and Roberts. Van Deen in motion coming near side for Saranac Lake. Rich will run it up the middle. He's going to be just short of the goal line by about a yard, maybe a yard and a half. 2nd down and goal to go for the Redskins from the Tupper Lake Lumberjacks 2-yard line.
And you know something, and again, I don't want to single out anybody in particular, but one name we haven't talked about yet is Adam Button.
No, we haven't. Like I said, we saw him creep up to the line. He's been contained.
And so, you know, that may be an interesting battle that's being waged there right now.
2nd down and goal to go for Saranac Lake from the Lumberjacks 2. They failed to run it in. Rich was the ball carrier. He'll pick up about 1 yard. 3rd down and goal to go for Saranac Lake from the Lumberjacks 1-yard line.
Yeah, and I I think that, again, one of the problems the Lumberjacks are having is they're not being able to stop that run up the middle.
Ryan Roberts sets him down once more. Split back formation. Jeremy Rich. Does he get in? He does not get in. He is still stopped at the door. Obviously 4 down territory.
He lost yardage. Looks like he lost about a
He
yard.
lost about a yard there as they pushed him back.
Now this makes it very interesting, because I'm wondering what they have in mind.
Chris Lapierre went over to the sideline to talk over this play with Coach John Raymond.
This could be a real momentum shift right here, because if Tupper Lake can hold them that close to a touchdown, that could give them the lift that they need after that touchdown by Saranac Lake.
Split backfield once more. Rich, play action, pass, touchdown. Ian Zaran from a yard out.
Hey, when you're the linebacker, you have to make a choice. Adam Baldwin made the choice. He went for the quarterback, and the quarterback threw it right over his head. And quite honestly, he made the right choice because there was nobody else out in the flat. And when Lapierre broke free, you know, he had to cover the man with the ball, and when he did, that just opened it up for Ian Zaran. So Saranac Lake, 2 quick tallies in the first quarter, and Tupper Lake definitely finding themselves behind the 8 ball.
What a nice target to throw to Ian Zaran.
Oh, yeah.
6'4", 227 pounds.
And from the eye of the quarterback, you know, he looks like a 747 wide body. I mean, it's almost like you sit there and say, I can't miss with this guy, you know? I can't miss it unless I spike it in the ground.
There was an injured Saranac Lake player. He's okay. So we stand at 13-0. Saranac Lake leading with 3:31 to play in the opening quarter. This has got to be a little bit of a shocker right now for Tupper Lake. They had expected that they could play with Saranac Lake in the early going.
And you know something, again, the key to the game, and you know, again, I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's the line.
Mm-hmm. Jeremy Rich, the point after try, it's no good. He misses wide right. With 3:31 to play, the score remains Saranac Lake 13, the Tupper Lake Lumberjacks nothing. Ryan Roberts from 11 yards out, and Lapierre to Zaran, the touchdown you just saw in the play action pass. That's where we stand, 13-0.
I'll tell you something, though. We said, you know, coming into this game, we knew that Tupper Lake had a good line.
Yes.
I mean, I don't think there's any arguments there. What amazes me is the job that Saranac Lake has done against them. They have loaded, and I mean, when I say loaded, this is out of respect I say this, Dave Bedore and Adam Button on the right side. Now, there's no way you could tell me, if you've got those 2 guys on the right side, that, I mean, I'd be running, you know, over that side all day long. And so far, Saranac Lake has just stuffed them there.
No.
You know, and that's a credit, again, to the lines. You know, we talk so much about the people in the skill positions because they're the ones that score the touchdowns. But it's in the trenches. It's on the line where games are won or lost, because that's what makes the running backs run to daylight, and that's what makes people open in the backfield. Defensive backfield is the line play.
And the Redskins really are not doing anything fancy on the line right now. Right now, they are beating Adam Button and Bedore man-to-man.
And from what I was hearing, you know, I talked to Jan Plumidor about a week ago, and Jan said to me, he says, one of the areas that I think everybody's going to be pleasantly surprised with is the work of the offensive line and what Cy Ellsworth has done. And so far, it's been very impressive. They're not doing a lot of stuff fancy. They're just really using their leverage, using their smarts on blocks, and it's really come off very well and very effectively for the Saranac Lake team.
One thing that Plumidor did say, though, another high end-over-end kick from Leahy. And that's going to be a touchback. This is a new wrinkle in the Redskins special team.
Back that up. Did somebody call that a touchback?
I believe so.
We're going to have to talk to John Raymond. I don't know that John Raymond's ever had a kickoff touchback before.
I don't think so. Not in the air. Maybe 1 or 2 that have rolled through the upbacks, but certainly not one in the air chasing him. Chased all the way back into his own end zone.
You know, that's a nice weapon they have, and I don't know that I was aware that they even had that weapon coming into this game, and I'm not sure anybody else was either.
No, Raymond was very hush-hush about that. And in high school football, Roy, 80 yards is a lot of territory to cover for a touchdown.
Oh, yeah. There's no question about that.
Back to throw Pickering. He has some time. He now rolls out of the pocket. Looking into the flats. He gets it away, and it's caught. That was Brian Tynan with the reception.
I don't know how he got that off. He was so close to the sideline marker. I thought he was already out of bounds. He actually had kind of taken a leap out of bounds, but he had not come down yet when he let that ball go. That was quite an athletic play that time by Pickering.
That's again at 20 yards to the Tupper Lake 40-yard line. And if you watch Tynan, he knew his quarterback was in trouble. And we talked about this in the JV game. If your quarterback is in trouble, come back, help him out. And that's what he did.
Yep, and also roll to the same side your quarterback rolls to. That's another real key fundamental in football.
After the 20-yard pass, over the middle. Now Pickering beginning to find a little bit of rhythm with Craig Roberts. That's going to be a gain of 7 yards, second down and 3 for the Lumberjacks.
Yeah, and what I think the strategy now is for Tupper Lake is let's see if we can set up the run with the pass. And so what they've decided to do is go to the air. Now, they've thrown a couple of passes that were good. Pickering did a good job completing them. Dangerous areas to throw them in, though. Pick-off areas right over the middle where there's a lot of activity, a lot of crowds, sometimes a lot of hands getting up. So I don't know that I'd want to make a living off of that, but it may give them some of the breathing room they need.
From the Lumberjacks 46, it's second down and 4. And what the passing is doing right now is allowing Tupper Lake to find a little bit of room up the middle and running the football, and they pick up their first down.
And again, what's happened is because Saranac Lake was playing them run, they come out, the first 2 passes are successful. All of a sudden, Saranac Lake loosens up the linebackers a little bit, and then they're able to take advantage of it, blow through the hole, and all of a sudden they can get some activity going with their running game. A smart wrinkle offensively that time by Joe Cavallaro, who I think is handling the offense for the Tupper Lake team this year.
From the Redskins, a 45-yard line, that was Brendan Hayes. So with that carry, the first down carry for Tupper Lake. They'll try it once more up the middle, and Roy, that time, absolutely nothing was there except for Sean Rowe.
Yeah, and also there was Gerard Sutton. It was Stack City. Saranac Lake did a good job standing up the linemen, and again, I believe that was in the area of Button and in the area of Bedore. And again, those are the areas I would think that Saranac Lake would have real problems with, but they have not so far.
No gain on the carry. Second down and 10. Hayes was the carrier there. Paul Pickering went over to the sideline to get the play. Then he went back over to some confusion. As the game clock continues to roll, we are under 1 minute in the opening quarter. Tupper Lake trailing 13-0. Brian Tynan
Too much time.
is the slot receiver in delay of game. I thought so.
Yeah.
Pickering was unsure of the play.
You can't go to the sidelines like that and then sit there and just blow into the huddle easily and then blow out. And of course, he didn't have that much experience last year as a quarterback. I think he, was in a couple of games for Cody when Cody was injured. But, that's one of those things that you would expect to see maybe the first game of the year when he doesn't have that sense in his head, that clock going off about timing yet. And so costly play though for them because it negates anything they may have already had.
Sets the ball back at midfield for Tupper Lake. Sean Savard is the wide receiver right side, slot receiver. Pickering rolling out right side. He's in trouble once again. He's going to run. And finally tackled inside the Redskins' 43-yard line.
Yeah, it was a nice job that time of getting out into the flat. He had a lot of big bodies after him, but none that could catch up to him. And that allowed him to actually spring. He didn't have any backers chasing him or anything like that, and that was the difference.
Saranac Lake will spend their first time out, and that will stop the clock with 42 seconds remaining. 13-0, the Redskins leading Tupper Lake. You're watching high school football on Adelphia Cable Channel 2 from the brand new Rotary Athletic Field. What a gorgeous facility.
Gorgeous facility, a gorgeous day. We've got a panoramic view of the mountains. We have a full house here from both Saranac Lake and Tupper Lake, and this is the way football was meant to be. Enjoyed by many, and for those who couldn't be here, enjoyed on Adelphia Cable Channel 2, and we're happy to be with you to bring you the action in that one.
We will be back next week on Saturday, and we'll be back in familiar territory, Ken Wilson Field, as Saranac Lake will begin their home schedule, their home season, when they play host to the Plattsburgh Hornets.
Yeah, and Plattsburgh, unfortunately, looks like they're in another rebuilding year. And so we'll have to see how they fare against the Saranac Lake Redskins next week. They did not fare very well last night, and we'll tell you a little bit about that at halftime to kind of bring you up to date on the only CVAC game that was played last evening. But they'll be in town next week, and then the following week, John and I are going to put our traveling shoes back on and head up to Beekmantown.
Yes.
And see how the Eagles are this year. They've got some people returning, including their quarterback and one of their running backs, Billy Light, and we'll have a chance to take a snapshot and preview them.
How about the next 2 weeks for Tupper Lake? They have Saranac Lake today, then they have to travel to Peru, and they also have Seton Catholic on their schedule. A tough 3 weeks for the Lumberjacks to begin the season. Caught by Sean Savard and pushed out of play at the Redskins' 35-yard line. Note, yeah, they say that he was pushed out of bounds, so it will stop the clock with 35 seconds remaining.
Yeah, a very nice job that time. And again, they're sending a lot of people out into these pass patterns. There's a lot of traffic out in the defensive backfield, but so far, Pickering has been very accurate, and that's what's really made this drive very successful for them.
I've been impressed with this drive right now. They've been able to really balance the run and the pass, and Pickering is showing just how strong his arm can be.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if I'm Saranac Lake, where I would probably want to put some pressure on is on the defensive left side, which would be offensive line right side, because that's where Pickering is rolling on just about every play that he wants to throw.
Yeah, you're right. Split in the backfield. Hayes and Ham for Tupper Lake. Saranac Lake comes up on the line. Handoff to Jason Ham. Ham will pick up 1 yard, and that's about it. Jim Leahy, one of them for Saranac Lake, and Kirk Sullivan, the defensive end for the Redskins, in on the tackle.
And that time they ran away from this side as opposed to actually passing. But so far, Tupper Lake's done a good job sustaining this drive. They have hit the key plays when they've had to. They've gone to Savard when they've needed to get some of those needed yards. But so far, Pickering really doing most of it himself.
And after 1 quarter of play, our score 13-0. Saranac Lake leading Tupper Lake. Ryan Roberts, an 11-yard run at 6:41 of the first quarter, and then Lapierre to Saran play action pass, and we stand at 13-0. Saranac Lake leading Tupper Lake. I thought when this game started, I expected this type of approach from Tupper Lake, a conservative approach, get everybody involved in the game plan, maybe get some of that new field, new stadium, and homecoming jitters out of them. But I thought Saranac Lake would be a little bit more wide open. I thought that they would try to jump on the board, maybe by the first possession on the first play with a long pass, but they too have really taken the conservative approach.
Well, you know, they didn't have to. They haven't had to so far. And, you know, I think one of the keys here is that Saranac Lake, so far, you know, Tupper Lake's situation is that they have an opportunity to get back in this ball game and score on this drive. But even if they do that, a bigger problem looms for them, and that is they have to find a way to stop Saranac Lake because they haven't been able to do that. Now, maybe if they do score, that's going to give them the momentum and maybe a few adjustments from the coaching staff to be able to do that. But I think if you're Tupper Lake, some of your issues may still be hanging around on defense, you know, even though the offense is the one that's controlling the tempo right now.
If you are Tupper Lake, can you rely on that defense? Last year, they were Division II's best, giving up just 155 points in all, but there's only so much pressure you can put on a defense without the offense responding.
Exactly, and one of the keys here is going to be if Saranac Lake can continue to run the ball up the middle, what's going to happen is it's going to force the Tupper Lake defense to start playing more run support. The backers are going to have to sell out to the run, and they may have to start bringing a safety. And if they start doing that, all of a sudden it's going to create one-on-ones in the passing lanes for the receivers, and then that's going to make passing against this team a lot easier.
Yeah, Mark Van Dien and Tom Finnegan will be wide open, and Chris Lapierre can just pick and choose.
Yeah, well, that's it. And, you know, I think what they want to do, if they can, is double Finnegan, and that may not allow them to do it.
Pickering back to pass, straight back this time, flushed out of the pocket, and caught from behind. He's thrown for a sack.
Ian Zaran, a nice shoe-top tackle that time as Pickering started escaping the pocket. Pickering is very mobile. He's not easy to get. And the other thing is he strikes me as being very thin and wiry, you know. So, you know, sometimes I think you get fooled by his upper body strength. He doesn't look like he's much, but, you know, he's got those strong legs, not easy to get away from. But Zaran, a good job that time to get him down for the sack. different look than what teams like Tupper Lake are used to seeing against Saranac Lake. Now, teams down the road, as we go further into the season, may adjust to it. But right now, Dennis Klausner is faced with having to adjust to it immediately.
Jeremy Rich, once more, this time he'll fall forward for only a couple. Jeremy Rich was not the featured back last year in Saranac Lake's offense. This is kind of a new role that he's undertaken for the Redskins. He was more of the defensive presence.
Yes, and the blocking back. You know, occasionally they will run a lead. Sometimes in wishbone situations they'll run a double lead into the hole. And a lot of times Jeremy is good in that role. But again, I think they're keying on Ryan Roberts, and in some cases I think as a result of that they're taking advantage of that situation.
From their own 43-yard line, 2nd down and 7 for the Redskins as they pitch it to Ryan Roberts into the secondary, up the far sideline to the 30, and deep inside Tupper Lake territory.
Jason Fuller saved a TD. And again, what sets that outside play up, John, is the inside running of Jeremy Rich. And so what they're finding, I think, is if they can't control the inside, then they start biting down on the inside with their defense, then Saranac Lake springs it to the outside.
I have not called Adam Button's number yet, nor Dave Bedore's number yet. The Saranac Lake offensive line is just doing a great job right now in isolating those two players.
Yeah, this is what it's coming down to. Right now, the battle of the line of scrimmage both ways is going to Saranac Lake.
From the Tupper Lake Lumberjack 28-yard line, Jeremy Rich once more, and he stopped at the Lumberjacks 21.
And you should see the audience that Ryan Roberts just got. Ryan just kind of went out to the side, and all of a sudden, it brought half of the Tupper Lake Fire Department, not to mention at least 3 members of the defensive backfield. They are very concerned about what Ryan Roberts can do, but Saranac Lake's being very smart in how they're deploying him.
Tommy Finnegan is the wide receiver to the right side. Wishbone formation from Saranac Lake. This is the third time we've seen that in the first half. We have 8 minutes to play in the first half. The Redskins leading 13-0, looking to put more points on the board. They pitch it to Ryan Roberts. He wants to find room around the end, and Roy, it is not there. Nice pursuit that time by number 44, Jason Ham.
Yeah, that time they tried to get the lead block, and Van Deen couldn't get it. Ham was very good. He held up Van Deen and was able to close in and make the play. It was a nice job one-on-one that time by Jason Ham.
Redskins are now looking at a 3rd down and 10. They'll move it up. It's 3rd down and 9 for the Redskins. Did you enjoy your pizza?
Yeah, you know, I have never seen pizza served at a facility before. And that was our big talk. You know, we do talk about other things besides football. We do talk about food every now and then. But Tupper Lake won for pizza here at the ballpark.
We ate well.
Yeah, we did.
Saranac Lake runs the reverse to Van Deen.
And it is open, wide open.
Wide open. Van Deen up the far sideline. Van Deen, is he in? Yes, he is in. The Redskins score from 28 yards out on the reverse. Ryan Roberts hands it off to Van Deen, and he grabbed that far sideline, and there was just daylight to go.
Tupper Lake defense said this, John. They said, we are not going to let Ryan Roberts beat us to the outside.
No.
And what does he do? He turns around and hands it off. And again, when you want to talk about wrinkles, this is a wrinkle for Saranac Lake, and it's all been set up by everything that's happened. The inside runs of Jeremy Rich, and they're so afraid Ryan was going to bust one, he handed it off, and boom, done deal, another 6. You know, it's excellent offensive execution and game plan execution by the Saranac Lake coaching staff.
We talked 2-point conversion as the Redskins set up. Ryan Roberts can't handle the exchange. He's tackled for a loss. Ball's fumbled.
It don't matter.
It doesn't really matter. And you can jump on it all you want, but the ball's still going to be kicked off from the Redskins' 40-yard line.
It's not going to help you unless you're taking the air out of it.
That's right. This seems very much like the team that we saw last year from Saranac Lake. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of difference. Chris Lapierre, he's right now he's not being called upon to win the ball game. You've got the fullback pounding the middle, and then you've got the tailback running around the ends after you have exhausted the middle. This is the same approach that John Raymond has used for his first 10 years as coach.
And what did I tell you going over in the car?
I
said every year they tell me they're going to air it out, and then they start running. But again, I think it goes back to offensive execution. Really, in most cases with most teams, unless you really are kind of a maverick, you use the running game to create your passing game. And it kind of goes back to the old thing, which is a lot of times, I think for John Raymond to pass, he wants them to stop the run. What he's saying to them, we're gonna run it at you. If you stop it, then I'll go to the air. And that makes sense because, if it's successful, it's the old, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Let's see how strong Leahy's leg is now. He's kicking into the wind, and it is really beginning to pick up right now. Casey Pickering, one of the deep receivers. This is the more traditional Saranac Lake approach to a kickoff after a score, and Tupper Lake will smother it at their own 43-yard line.
Yeah, and I think that's smart coaching by the Saranac Lake coaching staff. They knew that they had the wind at their back, and they just let Leahy boom away. He doesn't have the wind, well, then they're going to do those control kicks. Tupper Lake doesn't know what's coming, so Tupper Lake's got to respect both, so they can't load up in anticipation of that, because one of the things I noticed last year was a lot of teams were getting up for those short kicks and getting pretty decent returns out of them.
Well, trailing 19-0, 6:50 to play in the opening half.
Yeah, I think if you're Tupper Lake, I really think you need to put points on the board now, and I really think you need to stop the bleeding right here.
But can you put that much pressure on a young quarterback in Pickering?
Well, he's got to learn sooner or later. I mean, this is the big time. When you're in the varsity, this is what you practiced for. This is what you trained for. You got to make it happen.
And he's got Peru and Seton Catholic in the next 2 weeks. They fake the pitch and run it up the middle. Brendan Hayes, the ball carrier, stopped at his own 45-yard line after picking up 2.
And again, Saranac Lake has been able to control the middle. And that's really, you'd hate to say it, it comes down to that simple a point. But as far as the offensive woes that Tupper Lake has had, that's been it.
Yep.
And, you can go to the air and you can keep throwing them down the field and everything. But, even with a young quarterback, if you're going to put all that on his shoulders, sooner or later, you're going to get a turnover because the Redskins play good fundamental pass defense.
From their own 46-yard line, Tupper Lake, 2nd down and 7. Run it up the middle once more. And Hayes, the ball carrier, once more.
They sent somebody blitzing through the middle. I didn't pick up who it was, but I don't know if that was intended to go up the middle or not. But Saranac Lake took a guess, picked a hole, but it kind of slanted off to the left. But still, Tupper Lake not getting all that much there.
Just short of midfield. 3rd down, a very long 5 for Tupper Lake. They are not in 4-down territory, so Lumberjacks right now need a big 1st down. They have to gain some type of confidence offensively, Roy. Hayes once more, the carry. He'll try to push towards that 1st down marker. Van Deen finishes the tackle. Leahy was the first one there for Saranac Lake. He's going to be short of a 1st down, Roy. He's going to be about a yard and a half short. He is.
Well, I think they had a good idea going, but it just didn't work for them because Saranac Lake's been playing really good defense. I think they figured Saranac Lake would anticipate they were going to pass the ball and try to sneak through a 3rd down run, but it fell just a little short, and it looks like they're going to go for it.
From the Redskins' 47-yard line, 4th down, a long 1.5, close to 2 for Tupper Lake. Quarterback keeper Paul Pickering, he's certainly long enough to fall forward for a 1st down. He stays on his feet. He picks up 3.5.
Well, that's been one of the more effective plays I've seen up the middle so far.
That's a big 1st down right now for Tupper Lake. They need the confidence. They've carried the ball into the Saranac Lake territory at the 40-yard line.
Well, they may have hit on something here. I think what they need is they need more of a quick hitter where you have the running back just about on top of the quarterback so that, he could just grab the ball and that they don't have to set their blocks as long, the offense. That's what they need because a lot of these plays seem to be slow developing plays and they're just not winning those long sustained blocking deals.
And they're going to go back to it again.
Well, if it works, it's
Pickering,
the same thing.
Keeper.
If you're a smart coach, why should you take something away? It doesn't say limit one to a customer, with some of these plays. So if it works, what you say is, fine, let's go back to it and let's see if they stop it. If they don't stop it, then we'll keep running it until they do.
Sutton makes the tackle. Gain of about 4.
Interesting that you've seen them now go back to the running, trying to establish the running game again.
Ball resting on the Saranac Lake 37-yard line. Pickering has yet to throw in this drive. Now he wants to throw, rolls out, And he is caught by Van Deen, the free safety, who is blitzing on the play. And I was watching Van Deen. He was watching the guys at Pickering, and he was guessing on the snap count. He was just slowly creeping up that line of scrimmage. Pickering never saw him.
And did you notice what happened when Pickering tried to roll left? He does not look good rolling left.
No, he doesn't.
And so, you know, it looks like if he's going to do it, he's either going to stand in the pocket or he's got to roll. But I suspect he's one of those quarterbacks who doesn't feel comfortable throwing the ball unless he's rolling. And that means you cut part of the field off whenever you do that. Either that or else you throw against the grain and watch the INTs come back at you, one or the other.
So the ball is pushed back to the Redskins' 49-yard line. We're looking at 3rd down and 18. Pickering straight back now. He wants to throw over the middle. Steps up, had plenty of time to throw, and he missed his intended receiver in the flat, and he was looking for Sean Savard.
Let me tell you something. Give that one to the defensive secondary of Saranac Lake. They blanketed all the Tupper Lake receivers that time, and you know, Pickering had the time, and his offensive line did a hell of a job giving him protection, but he just couldn't find anybody open. And even when he threw the ball, he was trying to throw it where nobody else could get it but his receiver, and it would have been a diving catch to get it at that point.
But it was a smart play as the quarterback.
Yes, yeah, it was. Don't throw the interception. Try to get the play, but above all, only throw it where your player can get it.
Looks like Tupper Lake will go for it on 4th down from the Redskins' 48-yard line. Pickering back to pass. Straight back once more. He's going to swing it out. That's Brendan Hayes. Not nearly enough for the first down. Ryan Roberts makes the tackle for Saranac Lake, and the Redskins will take over on downs.
Nice play if you're looking at gaining maybe 5-10 yards. Not a nice play if you want to gain 20. You need lead blockers at some point, and he was out there naked.
You might as well kick the ball away if you're going to run that type of play. That play does you absolutely no good. You picked up 9 yards.
Yeah. And again, if you only needed 5, maybe if you only needed 8, it's a nice play to use, but I wouldn't use that play if I had a situation where I needed more than 10 yards. Then I think you really need to throw it downfield if you're serious about going for it on 4th down.
2:34 to play in the first half. The Redskins take over on downs from their own 39-yard line. They have looked good offensively with this approach, just simply running the football. And they are simply outpowering Tupper Lake at the line, and Ryan Roberts, another big gain for the Redskins.
Yeah, Ryan did it once again, you know, and what's crossing them up is they're not anticipating that wide run. You know, Saranac Lake's kind of given them this pattern that I think the defense is operating off of, which is you go inside, then you spring it outside. So what happens on 1st down? You run one outside, and it crosses them up.
But how can you not expect it, though? And every time that Ryan Roberts has touched the football, he has run from tackle to tackle. And he picked up 8 on that carry, by the way.
And it doesn't really matter because Saranac Lake's still establishing ball control.
Van Deen in motion. And they'll run it up the middle with a fullback, Saranac Lake will, and they'll pick up the first down into Tupper Lake territory.
You see, the problem is when you have such breakaway speed like Ryan Roberts has, he is a threat to score every time he gets his hands on the ball.
That's true.
So you have to put yourself in a position to defend against him, whether you want to or not. If you ask Dennis Klausner, you know, do I want to pay this much attention to Ryan Roberts? No, but if I don't, I'm really sunk. Meanwhile, Saranac Lake has so much offensive balance on the team, they could beat you with 3 or 4 other guys out there. You know, I think it's a no-win situation.
1st and 10 for Saranac Lake from the Lumberjacks' 49-yard line. Van Deen is the wide receiver nearest to us. Lapierre wants to throw. He's got a man wide open. That's Finnegan. And he underthrew him at the 20-yard line. He had the safety beat all the way. And I believe that was Jason Fuller who was covering on the play, and it was.
Yeah, Jason almost made a cardinal mistake that time. Jason stopped and was going to try to go for the interception, and if that ball had cleared his fingertips by a little bit more, Finnegan would have been gone to the races. You know, those timing patterns by Lapierre,
yep.
You know, this first game of the year, it'll be interesting to see it down the road. Actually, he waited too long to throw the ball is what happened, and the route had already been established.
Now Finnegan lines up as the wide receiver, Roy, on the right side. Checks his mark. 2nd down and 10 for Saranac Lake from the Lumberjacks' 49-yard line. I formation. They send Van Deen into motion. Lapierre wants to throw, rolling out. Yeah, Jeremy Rich, the fullback, who had snuck through the middle of the line of scrimmage looking for the pass in the flats, but it was deflected by Paul Pickering, incomplete.
And Eric Staves was the man that got the ball. And the reason I say that is because we've been calling his name a lot, and he's doing a great job out there. But Staves has been sideline to sideline. He has been the one defensive player that I really have a lot of praise for today. He's really been covering laterally, sideline to sideline. I am wondering, and I don't know that this is fair to make this judgment at this point, but I'm wondering if they're using Adam Button right. I almost think,
I question that too.
But, because he's such a talented player. It's a shame that we're not talking about him. And I don't know if that's because Saranac Lake is doing such a great job on him, or if it's because he seems to be playing out of position and having trouble dealing with the linebacker situation. I don't know.
Well, what you want is him featured in the defensive scheme. You do not want a team to run away from him. And if you isolate him at the defensive end position, they'll try to run away from him. When I talked with Klausner and others with the Tupper Lake program, they said that he has such good east-to-west lateral speed that they're not that concerned about it. But right now, if you watch that Saranac Lake front line, is what they're doing is they're shedding that first block, and then they're just picking up Button and Bador, and they've isolated them, and they can't get in on the tackles.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the position he's actually playing, I think what I would do at this point,
delay a game against Saranac Lake, and that's all right. It was 4th down and 9. Redskins were looking to punt it away anyways, and they took some more time off the clock down to 24 seconds, got themselves some more room to kick it away.
Yeah, but I think it's interesting. If I'm Dennis Klausner, maybe what I do is I take him. If I'm not sticking him on the line, I would take him and I'd stick him right at nose guard, because somewhere along the line you have to be able to stop that middle run, because the middle run, everything is feeding off the middle run. Everything, if you're successful up the middle, it opens up the outside, and everything is just, you can see it happening, unfolding. And what's key here is that as you look at the game plan execution, Saranac Lakes is working perfectly. Tupper Lakes looks haphazard.
Rich punts it to the near sideline. It's going to take a Saranac Lake bounce and out of play at the 35. He tried to keep it away from Fuller and Savard. And you also talk about Adam Button. I mean, he's 40 pounds lighter than last year than what he is now. You're talking about lateral movement with a kid who was 230 some odd pounds. Right now, he comes into this season at 273. That has to slow him down some.
And let's bring up another factor that we haven't talked about, John, and that is it's a fairly warm day here, okay? This is not your typical football weather. It's probably 70, 75 degrees, and it's very warm when the sun is down. What effect is that going to have on this team in the second half, and in particular Adam Button and Dave Bador? And if you've got a guy running laterally side to side, I mean, that's got to fatigue him.
And the defense has been on the field for a long time for Tupper Lake. Pickering back, the pass flushed out of the pocket. He finds an open man, and a big hit in the secondary. That was Brendan Hayes with the reception. And I believe that was Leahy who just laid a shoulder in him and knocked him out of bounds on the near sideline, and it was.
Yeah, it was a very nice job by the Tupper Lake offense that time. They really flooded the field with receivers, and Pickering is very good at eluding the defenders. And he found, I think Hayes was his outlet receiver. He hit him, and a nice job by Hayes. There was really nobody around him. Saranac Lake's not concerned about giving up the yardage right now. They just don't want to give up the points.
9 seconds left. 1st and 10 for Tupper Lake from the Redskins' 41-yard line. They'll throw it into the flats once again and incomplete.
Yeah.
Clock will stop now with 5 seconds remaining in the opening half.
Yeah, unfortunately, he made a fundamental mistake that time. He tried to throw it with his arm, didn't step forward, and that ball started sinking into the ground like a duck.
Yep.
And unfortunately, it was too low for his receiver to get.
You want to step into the pass.
Yep, you have to do it. And sometimes it seems so easy. But, when you're thinking about the clock and the clock's running down, you're trying to save time any way possible, but you still have to do the fundamentals.
And you're thinking about the 11 guys on the other side chasing you.
Exactly.
2nd down and 10 from the Redskins' 41-yard line. Over the middle, looking for Savard. Nice play by Finnegan. He hit him just as the ball arrived, incomplete, 1 second to play.
Dangerous pass. Not so much from the standpoint of getting it picked off, but it was a dangerous pass from the standpoint that that Savard could really get hurt leaning in on a play like that when the defender is right there. But you know something? I have to say, although Pickering has completed some passes and has looked good passing the ball, Saranac Lake has done a very, very good job containing and controlling the passing attack of this Tupper Lake Lumberjack team. They haven't had very many open receivers that they've been able to throw to in this contest.
That's something that the Redskins have built upon from last year. They had the top secondary in the conference. They had 5 interceptions, and like we said earlier, you've got Rich back. Although he's moved to the linebacker, he's an outside linebacker instead of the free safety now. He provides some of that confidence in the secondary.
Oh yeah, and having that experience back there can be very important, especially against some of the teams that Saranac Lake is going to face. Because Seton Catholic has a good attack. They've got Ryan O'Connor back this year. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit. Also, Osable Valley put up some very nice passing numbers last night in their victory that we'll also be talking about at halftime. So there's some teams out there that are going to pass on you, and I mean you can bet dollars to donuts that Mr. Ewald will have a passing plan of attack when Saranac Lake faces him.
They may use that 4 wide receiver thing.
Hey, let me tell you something. Talk about entertaining.
Pickering back to pass. He wants to go long. He wants it all. And it's intercepted by Roberts. Roberts inside the 5. He wants to return it. He finds a hole in the middle. There he goes to the 50-yard line, to the 40, to the 30, still on his feet and pushed out of bounds at the Tupper Lake 28-yard line.
And if you are Dennis Klausner, you're probably sweat is just probably pouring off your forehead. That is the last thing you want to do. If you have no open receiver, don't throw it to somebody.
Take a knee.
Take a knee, throw it out of the end zone. But whatever you do, don't throw it right to Ryan Roberts.
Now you want to throw it to the fastest guy on the field.
Looks like a
and there is
like
a penalty.
Hurt.
There's also a flag down on the field. Saranac Lake is reacting as though the penalty is called against them. It's a clipping penalty against the Redskins.
It looks like Craig Roberts down on the field also for Tupper Lake. Hopefully that's not serious. He's been one of those people that were being counted on to help lead this Redskin or this Lumberjack passing attack.
And it is Roberts down. The Lumberjacks have decided to decline the penalty, and they'll go into the locker room trailing 19-0. Saranac Lake leading the Tupper Lake Lumberjacks. And Roy, while we have this chance, let's look at the scoring before we look at some other highlights from area sports yesterday, and we'll have some analysis on the first half. Ryan Roberts began the scoring on an 11-yard run at the 6:41 mark of the first quarter, 6-0. Jeremy Rich, the point after try, good, 7-zip. Lapierre then to Saran with 3:31 to play in the opening quarter, made it 13-0. Saranac Lake failed on the point after try. Then in the second quarter, Mark Van Deen, the 28-yard reverse. It was a dandy. 6:53 was the time of that one in the second quarter, made it 19-0 when Saranac Lake missed the 2-point conversion. That reverse is the perfect example of what you said. You just want to jam the middle, make sure that the Lumberjacks defense begins to respect the middle, then you open up east and west, and it's wide open for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's like watching the pages of a book turn. You have to start at the beginning to find out, what you're looking at the end. And that's what Saranac Lake did. They started very basic, nothing fancy, and then they just tried to build on it from there. And really, as we said, the passing game hasn't really come into play an awful lot, and the reason is it hasn't had to. I mean, why put the ball up and risk interceptions when, you can get the job done on the ground? And for Tupper Lake, you have to sit there and say, God, this isn't what we expected. What happened here? And Saranac Lake just came out. They asserted themselves, and they let it be known, I'm on the top of the mountain. If you want to come knock me off, come knock me off. And you know something? As you listen to what Johnny Raymond has to say and you read the quotes, Johnny is not a fancy man. No. Johnny always says, I don't want excuses. I don't believe in excuses. Bring them on and let's play ball.
One thing that I'm noticing differently between the two teams offensively, Saranac Lake is building offense, all right? Every play is not designed to score a touchdown, all right? The previous play is designed to make the other play work, all right? And like you just said, it's like turning the pages of the book, and when you get to the end, it's going to result in something positive for Saranac Lake. Tupper Lake, on the other hand, offensively, it looks like they're forcing it, Roy. Paul Pickering is looking for the home run pass. They're looking to score on every possession. It's not there, and therefore they're making offensive mistakes.
Yeah, and what's happening is they're really not forcing Saranac Lake to make a lot of adjustments. Saranac Lake, on the other hand, has been forcing Tupper Lake to try a lot of different things, but one of the key things that everybody's looking at is don't let Ryan Roberts beat us. But Ryan doesn't have to. All Ryan has to do is be on the field sometimes, and he makes other things happen in kind. But they were keying on it. The Redskin coaching staff picked it up very quickly that they had put a rover back on Ryan Roberts in this contest. And so what happened was then they just started working Jeremy Rich up the middle and just taking Ryan and running him to the outside. And all that did was take a few defenders away from the line of scrimmage. And, you know, smart play calling. But when you look at some of the series that we've seen from Tupper Lake so far, they started out, they tried to run the ball, and I remember we started right off the bat, and I said to you, Tupper Lake needs to run the ball to be in this game. And Tupper Lake has not been able to run the ball effectively, and that's been the whole key to this ball game. And because everything that they do, they run this wing tee, and the wing tee, in order for passing to be effective, the wing tee has to be successful. And so basically we're in a situation where quite frankly Tupper Lake's looking and saying, why isn't this working?
That's right.
And the reason surely goes back to the fact that they have some very, very talented running backs, but they have not been able to get the blocking up front necessary to spring them.
And the result, a 19-point lead for Saranac Lake at the half. This is one of two games this afternoon in CVAC football. The season began last night. We'll talk about that in just a couple of seconds. But the other matchup this afternoon, Peru entertains Moriah. We talk about the Saranac Lake and Tupper Lake rivalry, but Roy, there's a bit of a rivalry between Peru and Moriah. Even when Moriah is down, they always seem to give Peru fits.
If I was Larry Ewald, I wish this game would be about a month from now. You know, and I don't know that there's ever a good time. For some reason, Moriah always plays Peru tough. And last year, first game of the year, down at Mineville, the score was like 22-20, and Peru escaped. And after the game, Ewald admitted they escaped, and he used those terms. And I'm sure this one is probably just as much of a dandy because Moriah is one of those teams that has a lot of players who have come back. They have a balanced attack, very similar to what Saranac Lake has in terms of offensive firepower. And I'll be very interested to see what that result is.
There are two evening games and something kind of new to CVAC football, at least to begin the year. I don't think I can remember where I've seen two night games to start off a season. One, Beekmantown is at Seton Catholic, that game at Bailey Avenue Field, and Saranac takes on Ticonderoga.
Yeah, the Saranac-Ticonderoga game will be interesting. Corey DeZalia's back for Ticonderoga, and that could spell problems for Saranac, although Saranac does have their big running back from last year, Josh Kringle, back as well. For the other game may prove to be rather interesting between Beekmantown and Seton Catholic. Seton Catholic has the nucleus of their team back. Zach Adams rushed for 1,145 yards last year to lead the CVAC in rushing as a junior. He is back. And with him and Ryan O'Connor, Keith Kane is back at wide receiver. Yep. They have a very potent offense. So I'll also be interested to see how they match up against Beekmantown and Billy Light.
Now, we also heard that Saranac this year is a Class A team. They've been struggling at all different classes for the last few seasons. In fact, they were 0-9 last year, so it just does not get any easier for the Chiefs.
I'll tell you something, this bumping up and bumping down, you know, it's almost like they pick these classes out of a hat sometimes. To see them change and change as frequently as they do just amazes me. But I guess that from what I understand, you know, we're not the only section that's experiencing things like that. We were mentioning earlier, Governor is now a C school, whereas last year the Northern Athletic Conference had no C schools.
Let's talk a little bit about what happened last night. How would you like to be a sophomore? You're under center. Your first play is a pass. 59 yards later, it's a touchdown, and that's kind of the way that the night went for Sable Valley over Plattsburgh as they shut out the Hornets by a score of 39-0.
Yeah, and you know, what's interesting about it is the fact that not only is he a sophomore, but he's not even supposed to be starting.
That's right.
Kellen Nolan is actually returning as the quarterback for the Patriots, but he had a broken hand, and I don't think he's expected to start taking snaps, I think, for another week or so. And so Burrell goes in, and Eric Zaran is a premier pass receiver. He's one to watch, one to enjoy, and actually is, I believe, a cousin of Ian Zaran. Last year led the league with 33 pass catches, and he had one day, did he not?
I would say he had a running touchdown. He had two extra points. He also caught the touchdown pass from Mark Burrell. Burrell not bad. He had 68 yards on the night. However, the story for Sable Valley was running the football 167 yards on the ground.
Yeah, unreal. And then in the Northern Athletic Conference, we were talking briefly about the NAC and about Gouverneur now being a C school. Gouverneur, I guess, did not exactly put out the welcome mat for Indian River. Indian River is a new entry to the Northern Athletic Conference this year. This game was played at Indian River last night, and Gouverneur won by the score of 40-24. Nate Leonard, and we were talking about with the game officials in between games today, and they were telling us that Syracuse is scouting a Gouverneur player and keeping real close tabs on him. I'm wondering if it might be this Nate Leonard, who he ran for 2 touchdowns, caught a pass for 3rd, returned an interception for 4th, all in the first half.
Well, if they weren't looking at him, they may now.
Yeah, that's for sure. So anyway, that's what happened as far as Gouverneur and Indian River were concerned. But there was another contest as well.
Yeah, Ogdensburg had an easy time with Canton as they came away with the 27-8 win. And Paul Jakes completed 5 of 8 passes, 139 yards, and 1 touchdown.
And on today's schedule in the Northern Athletic Conference, Messina is at Malone, Potsdam at St. Lawrence Central. Both of those games, as our game, started at 1:30 this afternoon.
Let's look at some other sports while we have this chance. First off, some girls soccer. Saranac Lake began their season as they got doubled up Peru by a score of 2-1, and nice game for Heather Brewer.
Let me tell you something. This was like a marathon. This game would not end. By the time they got done, they played 40 minutes of regulation, 2 sudden death overtimes, 20 penalty kicks, and they wound up going to 2 shootout sessions, and they took the shootout sessions finally 6-4. So they're in the game against host Saranac Central. And that game started about 10 minutes ago up in Saranac.
Yeah, and Saranac reached the championship game with their win over St. Regis Falls, and the final score there was 3-0. Some other soccer, the Autumn Leaves tournament, always fun to watch, and Plattsburgh, of course, the host there, they were able to roll all over St. Lawrence Central, 7-0. You don't see scores like that very often.
Yeah, but the other game was just as bad. Messina beat Madrid Waddington 6-0.
So what does that mean when Plattsburgh and Messina face each other tonight at 7:30?
Probably be a 0-0 tie.
Back to more of the traditional soccer scores. The Park Brothers Lady Cougar Classic. Malone 4, Northeastern 2 in the championship game. In the consolation game, this one another long one in double overtime. Bigmantown and Westport. The Lady Eagles came away with a 3-2 win. Actually, I can't say that, the Lady Eagles, because they're both Eagles. So Bigmantown came away with a 3-2 win in girls soccer. And there's some boys soccer to make note of from last night as well. The Seton Catholic boys soccer tournament, Roy. Northern Adirondack top Shazy 3-1 in the championship game. Seton Catholic over Chateauguay by a score of 4-1 in the consolation game. Northern Adirondack and Shazy always have strong soccer programs.
Oh yeah, you know, the teams that don't have football are some of the best soccer teams in the state. It's invariably Shazy, especially both boys and girls.
Yeah,
are always very, very good.
Load up every year. I remember playing at Lake Placid High School, and you just knew that Shazy every year was just going to load up on talent. It's kind of the same story as Saranac Lake's football. Yeah. They every year they're always in the running for at least the class title, the sectional title, and then they make a couple of runs towards the state title.
Well, let's talk about some rules changes. Now, there were a few things that the Sports Federation took a look at this year. We don't always talk about this, but there's some good things that they talked about doing. And again, when they look at it, they're looking at it from the standpoint of the safety of the players, which is really the way in high school it really needs to be looked at. Now, as far as the rules changes are concerned, one of the rules changes is the head slap. Which is better known as illegal use of hands, will now be considered a personal foul, and instead of 10 yards, it'll be 15. And I think the potential for injury played a role in the fact that they made that a more severe penalty than it was before. Also, eye shields. I don't think we haven't seen a lot of them in the CVAC yet, have we?
I know Ryan O'Connell from Seton Catholic, he will wear one. And I believe a couple of years back, there was one Saranac Lake player who wore an eye shield, but you don't see very many. And this is the rule that I agree with, especially with the hand slapping that has been going on the last couple of years. Fingers get in the face mask, you need some additional protection.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with it. However, what was happening was people were using the eye shield to tint. They would tint them,
right,
so that the officials could not see the eyes of the player. Well, you know, if there's a player that has a concussion, you can't see his eyes. You don't know. I mean, it may be dangerous to leave him out on the field. So basically, what they said is, yeah, you can wear eye shields. No, you can't tint them.
Yeah,
and that makes sense. They also took a look at some things and talked to the officials about unnecessary roughness on a ball carrier, you know, the extra shots, and starting to call them to try, you know, sometimes a ball carrier will not get injured on the first shot he takes, second shot. Sometimes it's when they start giving him needless shots, when the guy's already down, and it's between the time that the player's down, the whistle blows, or just at the point that the whistle blows. So that's something they're going to take a closer look at. Also, unnecessary roughness penalties away from the play, you know, not at the point of attack where they start messing up. Again, injury potential. They're after the officials to start calling them, even if it's not part of the main play.
And I think this last penalty, this last rule change is important. It's been an issue now in the NFL. It's called spearing, when you lead with your head.
That's right. And basically the rule is that the helmet is there for the protection of the player. The helmet is not there to be used as a weapon or as a blocking tool.
However, if you use your head and your shoulders in a strong tackle, a strong fundamental tackle, you shouldn't be penalized. And there have been some cases, not at the high school level because this is a new rule, but at the Pop Warner, you know, the semi-pro, the colleges, in the NFL, where the helmet sometimes is used, they do call a penalty. I believe there's a lot of gray area in calling a penalty like that.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, in some cases, somebody may have just been off balance and missed a tackle. They land wrong or they hit wrong, and it looks like somebody may have been trying to spear someone, and in fact, it may have just been an awkward moment or an awkward step that may have resulted in that happening. So, you know, it's not like this is running rampant in the league, but these are things where, you know, injuries can happen, and like anything else, there's going to be injuries in the game of football, but you don't want injuries because of the fact that there's things going on that shouldn't be, that should be called, and that's what they really addressed.
High school football, it's a pure game. These kids are out here for fun, and you look at a day like today, this is why, you know, the kids are out here. A great day at a brand new field. The half is just about set to conclude here with Saranac Lake carrying that 19-point lead into the second half. What do you see differently? I don't think I see too many things differently from Saranac Lake offensively or defensively, but I think for Tupper Lake, Roy, they've got to make some adjustments to the game plan on both sides of the ball.
Well, Tupper Lake is going to receive first, so they're in the position of trying at this point. They need to generate some offense. They need some steady, sustainable offense, and really, I don't want to say that they need to score in their first possession, but I think they need to set a tempo. They need to set a tone right off the bat to let Saranac Lake know that they can compete with them here, and that they're not going to be walked all over, and that they can make a game of this. If they cannot set that tempo early, this game is over, because Saranac Lake already up by 3 touchdowns is going to be hard to overcome.
Yeah, well, Tupper Lake tried to set that tone by deferring the opening kickoff and trying to set that tone defensively. It backfired.
Well,
and
that's the key. If you're going to send a message, don't shoot the flaming arrow if it's going to come back the other way, if it's a boomerang. And quite frankly, they got boomeranged in the first half, and it was just through Saranac Lake playing very solid fundamental offense and defense.
Leahy, long kick once again. Ham from his 10. They'll find some room up the middle. They'll cross the 20-yard line to the 23-yard line. Simply put, the Saranac Lake Redskins in the first half, Roy, they shot that messenger.
Yeah, they certainly did. That looked like a rugby scrum by the time they got done in the middle there. But anyway, a good job that time returning that kick. It must have been just in playing on the playing field. Wasn't called a touchback anyway. But Leahy certainly has had some good boots here today.
So Tupper Lake 1st and 10 from their own 28-yard line. So you run it up the middle. Quarterback keeper, that's Pickering. Pickering now around the end. He has some room to run, and Finnegan will make the tackle. Finnegan has played a good defensive game for Saranac Lake. He stepped up well from the free safety spot.
And you know something? We talked about in the game, we talked about Jason Ham, we talked about Brendan Hayes, and not to say they haven't had good games, the most effective runner so far has been Paul Pickering. I mean, in the first half and here right off the bat in the second half, and that may be something they might want to use as a primary weapon.
He will set him down just short of midfield. Up the middle. And that is Brendan Hayes, number 43.
And that's what they have not been able to do all game, is get that run up front. And they started it out with that shot by Pickering outside, and the next one was right up the middle, and they had success with it. Now they have to be able to keep sustaining that. That's really been the key, because the offense going in the first half was very haphazard. They were passing sometimes, running sometimes, and there didn't seem to be any flow or any meaning to it.
From the Redskins' 42-yard line, it is 1st down and 10 for Tupper Lake. Met in the backfield, and that is Hayes, or Ham rather, Jason Ham. He's going to be thrown for a loss.
John DeCastro was one, and I believe that was that Neil Solomon? I wasn't quite
I think it was Neil Solomon.
Yeah, I mean, he really stuffed it real quick. Filled the hole, made the play. Nice job that time.
So Ham will lose 1, 2nd down and 11 for Tupper Lake. Tupper Lake, though, Roy, still sticking with that game plan of trying to run that football up the middle, though they have added that wrinkle with the quarterback keeper in the option. Pickering once more will hand it off, and that's Brendan Hayes. He'll try the middle once again. He stopped at the Redskins' 40-yard line.
And again, they're getting some movement now, but not a lot.
No, he'll pick up 2 maybe. Redskins 39. It's going to be a 3rd down and a long 9.
The other thing I think that's been difficult for Tupper Lake in this game, John, is the fact that Saranac Lake is showing them many, many looks. You know, they're blitzing sometimes, they're filling the gaps in other cases, and I think the offense is having difficulty seeing where they can gain penetration.
Jason Fuller is now the wide receiver on the near side. Pump fake once, and he's sacked. The second pump fake was the one that did him in, because Sutton was right there to close the hole and pick up the quarterback sack. The second one of this afternoon for Saranac Lake.
Give credit to Mark Van Deen. He was ready to unload the ball. Van Deen jumped up in front of him, and he had to pull the ball down, and when he did, Van Deen went right down on top of him, too. He was right there, so it was a nice play by Van Deen. He didn't go for the sack right away, and if he had, Pickering might have been able to get the ball away.
4th down for Tupper Lake. They will lose just 1 yard. Actually, they're going to mark the ball right at the original line of scrimmage, so 4th down and 9. Pickering will punt it away. High, end over end.
Nice kick.
Nice kick
That
towards
is
the
a
far
nice
sideline. That's a beautiful kick, and it should be just outside the 15-yard line, perhaps marked at the 17.
Wish the pros could do it that way. That's what you want to do if you want to cough and corner it. You don't want one of these Redskin running backs to take the ball and return it.
No, Roy, they didn't get a very generous mark. They're going to mark the ball at the Redskins' 19-yard line.
Well, I knew it was just inside the 20. That doesn't surprise me, but it did take a nice bounce. Actually, what happened was it hopped sideways real quick. Otherwise, if he could have gotten a little more depth on it, it would have been nice. But I think for Tupper Lake, I'd settle where they are right now.
Matt Burns, the slot receiver for Saranac Lake on the left side. Redskins run the football up the middle once again. That's Jeremy Rich. Quick dive as he crosses the 20 and stopped at his own 21-yard line.
Stop was made by Adam Button.
That's the first, I believe.
It was Adam Button combined with Bill Peets. We're both in on that one, and that's what they need to do. They need to be able to fight off those blocks at the line of scrimmage, converge on the ball carrier coming up the middle, and stop it for little or no gain.
Hannah Button wears number 63. We have been trying to watch him, and also Dave Bedore. But they have been contained well by the Redskins front line. The Redskins have been winning this battle. Finnegan, wide receiver, left side, checks his spot. Second down, 7 for Saranac Lake from their own 21-yard line. Quarterback keeper, now they'll option it. That's Ryan Roberts. He has some room around the end. He sheds the tackle at Pickering, still on his feet. He now wants to move east. And finally, he is stopped at his own 41-yard line. And that time, Dave Bedore made the tackle. So now, Bedore, Button getting into the defensive scheme.
Yeah, Tom Larkin also on that hit. But I'll tell you something, that was a nice piece of running. And I'll tell you something, that was an awful nice job done by Chris Lapierre. He waited until the very last moment before he pitched that ball. And that's what sold that option play and gave Ryan Roberts the running room he needed to get that first down.
You know, though, Lapierre, he learned well last year. Jim Donis ran that option extremely well for Saranac Lake. He watched on the sidelines. Single setback formation, Saranac Lake. Lapierre back to throw into the flat. And the pass is caught by Brandon Macy. Just about midfield.
And that was a nice little curl pattern by Macy. They ran Van Deen deep. And what happened was Macy just went out and just curled right in the area that Van Deen had just vacated. He had one-on-one coverage on him, and Lapierre able to complete the pass.
First down pass play for Saranac Lake. From their own 47-yard line, it's caught. That's Finnegan. Finnegan still on his feet inside the Tupper Lake 35-yard line.
Oh, boy, I wish I had instant replay. One-handed catch. The ball was thrown behind him. It was thrown behind him, and he gave him one of them reach out with the arm, bring it back to the body, and it was so instinctive, it almost looked like it was designed that way. But that was a beautiful catch by Finnegan, and he is going to play a major role in Saranac Lake's plans this year, I'm sure, before all is said and done.
From the Tupper Lake 35-yard line, first down and 10. Imagine the confidence, though, if you're a young quarterback like Chris Lapierre is, and you've got the Van Deens, the Zerons, and the Finnegans who can catch your mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to make a lot of mistakes, but if you have to make them, those are nice guys to go to. And they pitch it to Ryan Roberts around the end. He breaks a tackle into the secondary. Fuller makes the touchdown-saving tackle. And I am really surprised about the elusiveness of Ryan Roberts.
He is showing great instinct. You know, there's certain things that make running backs good running backs or special running backs. And part of it is not what you teach them. Part of it is what the instincts they have. He is very, very instinctive. He sees the hole, he senses the hole, and he has that ability to make those little cuts in the hole, and just after he gets to the hole, that will get him those extra 5, 10, 15 yards, and in some cases will get him the touchdown. And so, you know, on top of everything else, let's talk about intermediate game plan now, okay? We talked about basic game plan when Saranac Lake did all the basics in the first half. So now that they've showed the whole package of basic stuff, now all of a sudden they can throw off of it. And that's what they're doing. They're throwing off of it because they still have to respect the run. And they still have to respect Ryan Roberts. And just when they start getting settled into a pass defense, they turn around and option it again.
Redskins, first down and 10 from Tupper Lake's 15-yard line, split backfield. Van Deen in motion. Roberts running the option. A fumble as he tried to pitch it out to Lapierre running the option. And Roberts couldn't handle the pitch out, and it's Tupper Lake's football on the fumble.
Well, after doing such a good job, Lapierre got one behind Roberts, and Roberts couldn't get back to it to actually recover it. He actually was out in the flats by himself and had a good opportunity to perhaps take it in for a touchdown, but had he led Roberts correctly, it'd have been fine. But for some reason, I think Lapierre got going a little bit too fast. He was trying to sell the option. Mm-hmm. And, you know, one of the things that Lapierre's got to remember is he can't pitch it all the time. You know, there's times that you really have to take it up because otherwise they will not respect you as a potential runner.
Well, off the turnover, Tupper Lake first and 10 from their own 11-yard line. They pick up 2 on the carry. 2nd down and 8. Ball carrier was Jason Ham. Now comes over to the sideline. Beautiful afternoon, 4:50 to play in the 3rd quarter with Tupper Lake trailing Saranac Lake by a score of 19-0. Tupper Lake again trying to force it up the middle. Jeremy Rich comes in from his linebacker spot, one of the tacklers for Saranac Lake. Leahy was there too. Wind beginning to pick up a little bit. And Tupper Lake will call a timeout. This timeout comes at 4:26 of the 3rd quarter. All the scoring so far in the first half: Ryan Roberts in the first quarter, an 11-yard touchdown run. Lapierre to Serrano, touchdown pass, and a play-action pass. And then in the 2nd quarter, Van Deen, the 28-yard reverse, and that's where we stand, 19-0.
I'll tell you something. I have nothing but praise for the defensive front of the Saranac Lake Redskins. I think they have done and said a lot. I think they've spoken in volumes today about their ability, and I'll be real honest with you. Coming in, I thought that Tupper Lake, if Tupper Lake had an advantage anywhere, just forgetting, just the kids themselves, just based on experience, I thought the experience advantage was with Tupper Lake, based on the fact that they had a lot of returners on that front line. And thinking about Bador and how Bador is developed, and thinking about Button and Button's year last year, to me, that was where I saw an advantage for Tupper Lake. And they have not been able to utilize it. They have not been able to maximize it. And in fact, I would have to say at this point, it is advantage Saranac Lake, because, these kids like Kivlin and Rowe, DeCastro, they've stood their ground against these guys, and they have not been able to let this offense get untracked.
Tupper Lake has not beaten Saranac Lake head-to-head since 1991. And, up until right now, the Tupper Lake crowd, they've been out of this game. They've been sitting on their hands.
Well, I think, again, and there's a pass play. And apparently completed. No,
incomplete. Incomplete. So it will be 4th down and just about 6 from Tupper Lake's 15-yard line.
And, this just epitomizes exactly the problems that they've had, John, because when you look at it, they're in a situation, they're backed against their own goal line. Yeah, you want to be able to run out from the shadow of your own goal line. You want to be able to do that because, you don't want to have to throw it in the air, because the last thing you need is an interception deep in your own territory and set up another team, to score on you. And they have not been able to do it.
And if you have to punt, the last thing you want to do is do it from 1 or 2 yards deep into your own end zone.
Finally, they dropped Brandon Macy back at the last minute. They weren't going for it. And then all of a sudden, and then let it drop.
Not a bad kick, but it is going to die inside the 40 at the Tupper Lake 38-yard line. So Redskins, 1st down and 10 from Tupper Lake's 38.
So instead of being able to feed off of the momentum of having a turnover go your way, what happens is you put yourself right back in a situation of putting them in a position where they could knock on the door for another score. And let's face it, another score here in this baby's history.
Yep.
But it's almost like, and if you want to talk about a tale between two games, Saranac Lake, which if you didn't know earlier, the JVs, Tupper Lake JVs beat Saranac Lake JVs 20-6 in our earlier game. But it's the team that scored first seemed to go on from there. They seem to have the momentum and everything.
How about the ball game Jeremy Rich is having offensively, as he's going to pick up 7 on that carry?
Let me tell you something. This is to take nothing away from Jeremy Rich, but I really believe that Dennis Klausner felt that one of the keys to their team having success here today was for them to be able to control Ryan Roberts. Mm-hmm. And I think they put a lot of energy, and a lot of their defensive game plan was in stopping Ryan Roberts, not stopping Jeremy Rich. And I think Saranac Lake probably anticipated that. And as a result, Saranac Lake has featured Jeremy Rich quite a bit because they've been just keying on Ryan Roberts. Now, because they haven't been able to block the middle, and I think part of the other assumption may have been by Tupper Lake that they would be able to handle the middle with Button and Bador.
I think you're right.
And they haven't. And that probably is the biggest surprise that the coaching staff found. offensively and defensively.
3rd down and 4 for Saranac Lake. From the 37-yard line of Tupper Lake. Split back formation with Roberts and Rich. It's been Rich up the middle, Roberts around the end. And there's Ryan Roberts up the middle, a huge hole. He'll pick up the 1st down, and Fuller makes the tackle.
And you know what makes Roberts so good is that even when he comes into contact, that time he came into 2 Tupper Lake receivers, or 2 Tupper Lake defenders, and dragged them 5 yards. You know, and he's a quick back, he's a speedy back, and many times he can run away from people, but in some respects he can also run over them. So that's what makes him really such a special back. When he's getting hit, he knows how to go for the extra yardage, and that's something you really can't teach anybody.
From the Tupper Lake 24-yard line, 1st down and 10-I formation for Saranac Lake. A double tight end set. Rich is the fullback. They send Van Deen into motion. Lapierre hands it off to Rich. He's met at the line of scrimmage. He may fall forward for about a yard, but that's going to be about it.
And again, Saranac Lake not doing anything fancy, just trying to work the middle. You know, they did try to open it up in that last series, and they started with the passes and with the options and all sorts of stuff, which kind of gave us a taste of exactly how dynamic this team really can be if they really want to be.
Right.
But, you know, then they go back to what got them here, you know, their basic staple, which is, you know, we're going to try to beat you off tackle, and we're going to try to beat you up front. And if you can stop it, you stop it.
2nd down after a gain of 2. Lapierre wants to throw into the flat far side. It's completed. I'm going to look for the receiver. I believe it was Finnegan, and it was Finnegan. Finnegan with the catch. And it will be 1st and goal to go from the Tupper Lake 9-yard line.
And Saranac Lake, again, you know, they just aren't doing a lot wrong. They're executing all the fundamentals they need to execute right here. And, I mean, hell, you can't beat that.
Van Deen now the wide receiver right side. They move Finnegan to the left side of the offensive line. I formation, Roberts, tailback. Lapierre hands it off to Roberts, and he'll jump forward. Didn't get in, but his forward progress will take him to the 5-yard line, so 2nd down and goal to go from the Tupper Lake 5.
Yeah, he was it's like hopping through a cotton field there, just trying to go over blockers and bodies, try to get anything that you can get. Still wound up picking up 3 or 4 yards. I'll be interested to see what his stats are at the end of the day. I think he's going to have himself quite a day, and that's in light of the fact that Tupper Lake probably put a lot of energy into trying to stop him today.
Button made the tackle. That's just his 2nd or 3rd tackle of the ball game. Lapierre hands it off to Roberts once more. He's going to be stopped just short of the goal line. So 3rd down play coming up for Saranac Lake, and that play will occur at Tupper Lake's 2-yard line. 16 seconds to play in the 3rd quarter, and I think for Saranac Lake they're going to try to get at least one more play off before the end of the quarter. Maybe not. Lapierre is taking his own time to get into the huddle, and he'll step into the huddle with just a second left. Not nearly enough time for Saranac Lake to get another play off before the end of the quarter. But after 3 quarters, it's been all Saranac Lake. 19-0 our score from the brand new Rotary Athletic Field in Tupper Lake.
And you know something? It wouldn't surprise me to see this Tupper Lake team have a really good season still. But, you know, this game will linger for a while. As maybe not going the way they thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
And again, when they go back, they're going to sit there and look and say, how did this happen? How did this happen?
The first 3 weeks of this season resemble what Tupper Lake saw last year. They have 3 tough games to start. After Saranac Lake, they have Peru. They're in Peru next weekend. And then they have to play host to Seton Catholic. And the first two out of 3 opponents are Class C opponents. So within the first 3 weeks, either Tupper Lake is in the Class C race or they're out of it.
Yeah, and that's and to a certain extent, we were talking about this earlier. It almost seems unfair that would happen. And we were talking about the fact that rivalry games like this should be late in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Like a few years back, Peru and Saranac Lake met in the opening game of the year, and it just didn't seem right. It's almost like Saranac Lake and Tupper Lake shouldn't be the opening game of the year. It should be later in the year. you know, when you know the records are built, and you know you can make a case for both teams and really get into the rivalry. But you know, at this point, you're just trying to you know, pick up following the game again, and boom, it's here and gone. I don't know. CVAC does their scheduling in a kind of a strange way. I almost think it's rabbit out of the hat type deal, the way they pick them. And then what they do is they do a 2-year schedule. So
and they'll rotate them out.
Yeah. So if you played them at home last year, you play them on the road the next year. But that's generally how they follow it. I don't know that I necessarily subscribe to that theory of doing things, but. I don't know.
That's the way it's been, and that's the way it's gonna be, I guess.
Yeah, I guess people could make arguments either side.
Wishbone formation for Saranac Lake from Tupper Lake's 2-yard line. 3rd down and goal. That's Ryan Roberts, and Ryan Roberts is just going to dance Roy into the end zone, barely touched.
What do? You take it off right tackle, you bounce it to the outside, you say, Sean Savard, see ya, and 6 points.
That's it.
Yeah, it seemed like, you know, you couldn't draw it up any better than that. But, you know, he's got his first step is so explosive, you know, and that's, again, something that you can't teach. That's something that, you know, you really, as a player, you need to have or you don't have. And he definitely has that ability. Last year, he was supposed to be second string.
Yep.
And Charlie Martin got hurt. All of a sudden, he came out of nowhere, and he wound up getting a lot more playing time because of that.
Jay Harvey with a point after try kick. Tupper Lake will jump off sides. That's Jason Ham on the near side, number 44.
And it wouldn't surprise me if John decides to go for 2 now. If they do half the distance and move it toward the 1.5 yard line, I think that's what's going to happen.
And look who he's bringing out on the field. Roberts, as well as Jeremy Richard, his quarterback, will step into the huddle. That's Lapierre, and he'll go for the 2-point play.
I wonder if he's going to try that move again. Sean Savard, I may be coming to see you again.
See where they line up Finnegan here. Finnegan will be wide receiver right side. Van Dina on the left eye formation. Jeremy Rich, the fullback. Ian Zaran on the left side, the tight end. They send him in motion. I think they're going to follow his block. Instead, Lapierre will keep it, throws it into the end zone, and picked off by Button. Well, Button made his presence felt that time, but he only prevented 2 points. However, Saranac Lake has put 25 other points on the board. They lead 11-54 in the 4th quarter. And
give Tupper Lake credit that time. They did a nice job that time rotating to the wide side of the field. The whole defense did a nice job then to stop that 2-point try.
Well, Tupper Lake certainly wanted their opening day to go a little bit smoother, but Saranac Lake has not been a very cooperative guest this afternoon, leading 25-0 with 11:54 to play.
Well, you know, there was a lot of talk about Tupper Lake, Saranac Lake, Tupper Lake believing that this is the year. And, you know, I almost think you have to play the game one game at a time, not worry about what you've done against one team before or haven't done. I mean, sometimes you wonder whether the Peru situation has gotten into Saranac Lake's head, you know, and John admits that he wants to beat Peru very badly, and everybody knows that. But, you know, you can't let it consume you, and you can't let it be your focal point. Your focal point has to be on managing to execute on the playing field, right, so that you can win the ball game. You almost have to treat it like it's just another game against just another team.
Slow roller. Tupper Lake will cover it at midfield, maybe not. Saranac Lake is reacting to so that they picked up the football. Let's see how the pile unfolds, and they have Saranac Lake football from midfield. It just has not gone right for Tupper Lake offensively, defensively, or on the special teams.
No, I mean, if you talk to Dennis Klausner, he'd be the first one to tell you that this is not the way he visualized this game going. I think he really felt that he had the tools this year to play this game, to play competitively. And I don't know that it was a question that he fully felt that he could beat Saranac Lake, but I really fully think that he felt that this would be a one-touchdown game, that he had a chance to win this game. And that's really all you're looking for as a coach, is a chance to win the game.
But unfortunately for Tupper Lake, it's not going to get easier. Lapierre back to pass. He's looking long. He'll let it fly near side. Saran with the catch, and he pulls it in at the Tupper Lake 40-yard line. And that's exactly what we said just about 5 minutes ago, if you're going to make a mistake, Zeron, Van Deen, and Finnegan can bail you out.
Yeah, that time Pickering really threw a bad ball. He really let it fly, and the good news was that the only person in that area was Zeron, quickly chased by Paul Pickering, but Zeron was able to use his body to establish position and make the catch.
That's Zeron's first catch of the ball game. The tight end, Finnegan, lines up right side as a wide receiver, Van Deen left side. I formation once more. Still the first unit on the field for Saranac Lake. I formation. Van Deen in motion. He's coming near side. Draw play. Roberts has room around the end. There he goes. 30, 25, and finally hauled down at the Lumberjack 22-yard line, and Pickering makes the shoestring tackle.
And isn't that classic? Because really, when you look at this Tupper Lake team, if you were going to take a person and say they were a star, I'd have to say Paul Pickering has done his job today.
He has.
He really has. He's completed the passes when he's had to. He's had to avoid a Saranac Lake rush. He's got them the running room. He's really done a lot more running than a lot of the other ones have. And here he has to make a touchdown-saving tackle on Ryan Roberts. He's been all over the place, and you got to give the man credit.
I don't have the stats in front of me. You'll have to check the Press Republican or the Adirondack Enterprise, but Ryan Roberts has got to be over 100 yards. And he stopped at the Lumberjack 17-yard line. He has had a super ball game.
He certainly has, and he has Jeremy Rich to thank for it, and to a certain extent, because Jeremy has been very effective on the inside. You know, they went away from Roberts, then they would come back to him. They've had the Tupper Lake defense guessing all game. And between the offensive line's work, the job that they've done blocking the interior line of Tupper Lake, put all those ingredients together, and that puts 25 points on the board for you.
Ian Zeron, the tight end on the left side, split back formation in the backfield. Van Deen, the slot receiver. And that must have been a hard cadence by Chris Lapierre, because the entire front line of Tupper Lake jumped off sides, led by Dave Bedore, 64.
Dave Bedore thought he was taking line dancing lessons there for a second.
He tried. He tried to get back.
and you know, as a lineman, there's nothing more frustrating than that.
No, I know it. But you're taught, Roy, you're taught to watch the snap of the football. Don't listen to the quarterback. I mean, that's their job, to bait you.
Yeah. And he did a very good job of it that time.
Lapierre, second down play, 2nd and 5. Burns, his first carry of the ball game, and that's going to result in a touchdown of 12 yards.
And let's see, off left tackle. You know, there's been some key plays that Saranac Lake has worked extremely well in this game. One has been taking that off tackle run either to the left or to the right. They've run it both ways, and then having the running back, once he goes through the hole, take it to the outside and circle around. The other one is just an end sweep that they've been able to do and use effectively. And the third one would be the option play, which was very, very effective. It did cost them a turnover, but all in all, they've not been able to stop that pitch out on the option play either.
Jay Harvey, our quarterback at number 4. We'll talk about him in just a little bit here, about the quarterback rotation for Raymond. As he sends a receiver into motion, that's Van Deen. He fumbles the snap. So the score will remain 31-0 with 8:57 to play in the fourth quarter. Let's go back a little bit and talk about Jay Harvey and his relationship with the varsity team. He's playing on the defensive line right now for Saranac Lake.
Offensive line too, I think.
Offensive line.
Guard. Yeah.
Many people, like myself, had thought that he was going to be the heir apparent when Lapierre graduated, but that doesn't seem to be the case. If Lapierre goes down, it looks like Mark Van Deen is the backup quarterback.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what the particular situation is, except I think that Saranac Lake likes speed. Mm-hmm. They like speed out of their quarterback, especially to run the option, and they like to be able to have that threat to run at quarterback to complement the running backs. And I think they may feel that Van Deen might be better suited from that standpoint to direct the team than Jay. But Jay is still going to contribute quite a bit on the offensive and defensive line. And, you know, he's a good size. He's a good size for a quarterback, but he's also a good size for a lineman. So I'm sure he will handle himself extremely well out there. if I'm Saranac Lake, I have to, and if I'm Johnny Raymond, I have to be extremely happy with this. And I think it's safe to say now, with a 31-0 lead for Saranac Lake, that coming into this game today, Johnny Raymond was getting ready to become the all-time coaching leader among Section 7 coaches. And that's kind of tainted in a way, because obviously Saranac Lake was in the Northern Athletic Conference for many years when he first came in. But this would be Johnny Raymond's 164th coaching victory. And I was looking at the New York State records, and that puts him somewhere around 40th among all-time wins by a high school coach. They had the top 50. And the man who he would succeed, and all of his wins were in Section 7, was Mike Bobay, who was the former Peru coach, who Larry Ewald succeeded, had 163. And this would actually be his 65th in CVAC, but he had a lot of them in the Northern Athletic Conference before that.
Pickering back to pass. Looking over the middle, and it's incomplete. No penalty called. Burns covering on the play. The intended receiver was Sean Savard, and that's a good no call.
Yeah, I don't know that it was a catchable ball.
I don't think so either.
They both dove for it. Their hands got in the way of one another, but I don't think there was any direct interference, really, that was deliberate in any way.
Some people that thought, let's talk a little bit more about John Raymond, that John Raymond wasn't going to be back, this season. That was never the case. John Raymond, following the Waterville Elite loss 6-0 in sectional play, had every intention of returning to the helm of Saranac Lake football. And the basic question is, if you talk with John Raymond, John, do you enjoy coaching? Yes. John, how long will you continue to coach? Until I'm tired of it. John, how long is that going to be? I don't know. I love to coach too much, and I'm going to be here for a while longer.
And I think, the man gets the job done.
That's exactly
forgetting
it.
anything else. When you look at coaches, and of course you see a lot of different coaches in the sport of football at different levels. And I've known John for many years, and there were times when John actually had offers to coach college.
Sure. And
turned them down. John has a very special relationship and a special bond. And to be a good coach, you need to be a good motivator. John has that uncanny ability. It's something you can't teach. It's something you can't go to school for, to get the most out of his players. It's something that Larry Ewald has developed, to find the way to get the most out of your players, so that when they're performing for you, they're performing at a level that they may not even realize that they can perform at.
A reverse. That's Ham. Ham will get back to the line of scrimmage after doing a lot of running of east and west. And let's talk about then some other teams. We talked a little bit about Plattsburgh. Plattsburgh has had no stability in the coaching ranks. Saranac has had no stability in the coaching ranks. They got a new coach in Ty Conderoga. He's been there now for 3 seasons, bringing back some of the stability, but he too has struggled for a couple of seasons. And with Raymond here, coaching, what did you say, 160 some odd football games?
164 wins is what he would wind up with, and he's probably coached, I would say, I can't say accurately, but I'm sure it's well over 200 games. When you think about it, every kid,
what a beautiful
has more
kick by Pickering, by the way.
And many of them never use it.
Ryan Roberts makes the over the shoulder grab off the bounce. He has some room, Roy, up the far sideline. And finally, Dave Bedore will check him out of bounds, close to the 50. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, there were 5 or 6 Lumberjack players who took a knee, knowing that they just got beat badly by Ryan Roberts.
Yeah, I think they also may be a little shook up too, but I think they're just flat out exhausted. They've had to chase him all over the field, and that's not easy. That's Jason Fuller just coming off the field now,
it is 33.
Holding his stomach a little bit. And then there was another one who was limping a little bit going in the lineup. The other thing about this team is this is not an extremely deep Tupper Lake team. There's not a lot of players here. More than they had last year.
Last year they fielded only 17. They got 33 this year.
Yeah, but they're still not as deep, and of course they do have a lot of players who play both ways. And that has to impact you, especially on a day like today when the sun's out. It's not bad when the sun's in, but when the sun's out, it's tough.
Clock is rolling with 6:30 to play in the fourth quarter. Saranac Lake leading 31-0. Harvey will hand it off to Burns. Burns will fall forward for a yard, maybe a yard and a half, but that's really going to be about it.
Yeah, and at this point, Saranac Lake's not looking at doing anything special. I think, though, you know, as you start looking at the team, now all of a sudden Matt Burns starts to assert himself. You know, this team is a little bit deeper than we may have given them credit for early on. And, you know, they've got some guys who haven't even gotten in the ball game who were very good at the JV level last year. So, you know, it just points to the fact this team still has a lot of the qualities that they need to repeat as a C-section champion.
Saranac Lake runs it up the middle. Believe that's Burns once again with a carry, and it is. Let's say this season takes the same shape as last year, where Saranac Lake starts to, you know, to blow out opponents in the regular season. John Raymond used his bench freely last year. Do you do that again this year? Because you and I talked when November started to arrive. What was the conditioning of the first unit, and would it be there when they needed it?
Well, that's a very good question. I think that, you know, Saranac Lake needs to make sure that they don't put themselves in the same situation they did last year. John, as a football coach, is a man who does not believe in running up scores on teams. You know, he does not like doing that. Obviously, you have to let the kids play the game.
Right.
But he does not believe in running the score up on teams. But at the same time, you can't do yourself a disservice and not play your players. And this has been a long-running argument. You see some of these teams that, you know, Waterville is a perfect example. Waterville 50, 60 to nothing, and people say, you know, look at that. Yeah, but these kids need work, because when they do face a tough game, are they ready to go, you know, 40 or 60 minutes or whatever they need to go? You know, and that becomes a big issue at some point. You know, did it become an issue in the Pregame last year? I believe it did.
Maybe an issue, too, in that championship, in the sectional championship game as well. Waterville won that game 6-0. Savard coughs it up. Ball is loose, and Saranac Lake football.
And
what was that, Mark Van Deen, who got his mitt in there and just slapped it out of Savard's arms?
Yeah, that baby was spinning like a top on the field, and Mike Kivlin, who's had a very good game on the line, made the recovery.
Well, this has been a long afternoon if you're a Tupper Lake football fan. They haven't played badly, but it looks in most cases as though they were just trying to force it offensively, and they just didn't have the answer against Saranac Lake defensively. Saranac Lake running inside with Rich pounding them, and then Ryan Roberts with a finesse outside, and Lapierre has thrown the ball well.
Yeah, he has, and he hasn't had to throw it a lot. He's been under control when he has, and you know, they're going when they start fine-tuning this a little bit more, I think it's going to be really effective. If anything, as I look at this game, the running game, I think, is in mid-season form from what I see here.
It looks that way.
I think the passing game needs to be fine-tuned a little bit more, but I don't think, you know, because of the fact that they had such success with the running game today, I don't really think they've needed it as a weapon, as much of a weapon as they may need it in the future.
But they do have to work on it, because October 10th is only 4 weeks away.
Well, you got it.
Peru is coming to Ken Wilson Field, and you know Larry Ewald is going to be throwing the football.
Oh, yeah, 4 wide receivers set everybody into the pool. It's going to be great.
Burns, by the way, had a 1-yard carry, so it was 2nd down and 9 from the Redskins' 20-yard line. The carrier was Chris Levere, number 33 for Saranac Lake. It's been a clinic. Next week on Saturday, Roy and I will join you once more. 10 o'clock in the morning, the start time for our JV game, as Plattsburgh will come to Ken Wilson Field. We'll have the varsity game at 1:30. Tupper Lake on the road. They are in Peru for a tough test. And then they face Seton Catholic in week number 3. So their season may be determined by the end of the 3rd week. That was Kurt Staves with the carry.
Yeah, and I think at this point, it's 4th down. Saranac Lake's right now, they're just looking to hit the showers. That's the only thing that's on their mind. They've had a very satisfying game, and I think Dennis Klausner got his initiation into the CVAC head coaching ranks, and Johnny Raymond just said, son, let me show you a lesson, let me teach you a lesson about how this game is played, and he did that very thing.
It was 160 some odd ball games against one.
Well,
coaching experience.
Well, that's it, you know, but
there's
you don't.
A fumble.
What I think, Sid,
Tupper Lake football.
Which they would have gotten anyway on the fourth down.
Which they would have gotten anyway on the fourth down.
Yeah.
So.
But you know, you don't get 164 victories if you're not a good coach. You know, point blank.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because that means that you have had to survive. And he started coaching in 1969, took a few years away. So let's give him that. So he's been coaching now, let's say 23, 24 years, something like that. And when he left on his own accord. And when he came back of his own accord. But I think, you know, when you take a look at it, when you look at the whole thing, you know, you don't get to be to that level. You know, if you're not a special coach. And that's what you talk about when you talk about milestones like that. You're talking about people who didn't just survive. These are people who succeeded.
And just the ability to adapt to the changes in the game. And then also, I mean, every year you talk about reloading, but really it's a rebuilding process because you have new kids coming into your football program with different personalities, and you've got to know them all. And it's picked off by Van Deen. The intended receiver was Sean Savard at the 40. Van Deen to midfield inside Tupper Lake territory and out of bounds at the Lumberjacks at 36-yard line. And Paul Pickering just has had a game that he's going to want to forget after he leaves the shower today. He really has had a tough ball game.
Well, he's had a tough ball game, but he's had some shining moments. There's some things that he'll be able to take away from this game and bring into the next one. You know, the other thing, as you were talking about having to make changes and adjustments, he probably had to make an adjustment. Many coaches that coach as long as he has do not have to make, and that is he had to make adjustments to go from one division to another, and that is not an easy thing to do. The CVAC is much more pass-oriented offense, and you know it's a completely different philosophy than the old Northern Athletic Conference was, and he had to make changes in the way he did things in order to be more competitive in the CVAC. He found a way to do it, found a way to get it done, and found a way to be successful in the CVAC as well as the NAC.
Well, the Redskins will not get another play off following the turnover, and they come away with a 31-0 win from the brand new Rotary Athletic Field. Scoring once again in the first quarter, no score. However, in the second quarter, the scoring went like this. Actually, I got to open up another page here. I apologize. There was scoring in the first quarter. Ryan Roberts, the 11-yard run, that occurred at the 6:41 mark, made it 6-0. Jeremy Rich, the point after try, good, 7-0. Lapierre to Saran on play action pass from 11 yards out, and that occurred at 3:31 of the first quarter. Redskins missed the point after try, 13-0 to score. In the second quarter, Van Deen on a 28-yard reverse run. The time of that, 6:53, made it 19-0. The Redskins missed the 2-point conversion. In the fourth, Roberts, the 2-yard touchdown run, and Burns, a 12-yard touchdown run. Roberts' run came at 11:54, and for Burns at the 8:57 mark of the fourth quarter. The Redskins start this campaign the same way they did last year. A win over Tupper Lake, final score 31-0. Last year they downed the Lumberjacks 35-0. They looked good. We said that this was a different Saranac Lake football team, but Roy, they looked like they did last year.
Well, that's for sure. You know, really, when all is said and done, this team has really showed that they are ready to pick up where they left off. They're also ready to show that they're ready to defend that Class C crown. You know, nothing will make anybody more upset than have somebody say, I'm ready to take it away from you.
Right.
And anybody who knows Saranac Lake and the way Saranac Lake plays will tell you Saranac Lake is a very competitive team. They're a very proud team. They work very hard. Their off-season conditioning is a real key to their success. And that same off-season conditioning is starting to pay off for this Tupper Lake Lumberjack team. And down the road, they will continue to be good. The signs that we saw in the JV game earlier today shows me that they're going to have a good offensive and defensive line for several years to come.
Yep, and Saranac Lake just now presented the Mayor's Trophy, or represented the Mayor's Trophy. They've held on to that in their trophy case since 1991. They'll come away with another win. Anybody who's going to take on Saranac Lake, you're going to have to realize that they're not going to give you the Class C title. You're going to have to take it away, and Tupper Lake couldn't today. Tupper Lake, though, they are an improving ball club. They looked good. They had their moments, but at times, though, Roy, they looked to be a little bit out of sync offensively.
Yep, they certainly did. And the real essence of the game, we spelled it out real early. We told everybody the key was Tupper Lake had to run the football. Yes, they could pass the ball, but that's not the key, because passing only works if your running game is effective. And they were not able to run the ball effectively. As such, they were never able to really get on track. The offense was very sporadic, and then finally it was a situation where and I think this is a key and something that Saranac Lake hasn't always had, and that is when you have your team, your opponent on the ropes, you have to put them away. And they definitely showed the killer instinct today in putting that score up to a comfortable level where they were not going to be defeated here today.
Well, our next broadcast will be Saturday from Ken Wilson Field as Saranac Lake invites the Plattsburgh Hornets to Ken Wilson Field. They fell to Osable Valley 39-0 last night. So Saranac Lake will come into that game 1-0. For Tupper Lake, it doesn't get any easier for them. They now must travel to Peru to even up their record to 500. But that, as you know, Roy, is a tough place to win. Our final score, 31-0. Saranac Lake wins the first varsity game to be played at the Rotary Athletic Field. I hope you enjoyed your day of high school football on Adelphia Cable Channel 2. For Roy Christopherson, I'm John Lundeen. Have yourselves a great weekend.
Formations. They have given them a different look. They have not shown the same thing twice in the opening drive. Play fake. McNabb, strong arm, gets Conrad coming out of the backfield, and he is slammed at the 41-yard line. Strong tackle that time by the Michigan defender Marcus Ray, number 29.
But what you're talking about, Brent, is we're seeing a lot of offense from the Orangemen already in this ball game. Conrad's been involved with the pass reception there. McIntosh on the option play. But McNabb's really the trigger man. He is such a poised athlete. He is the best athlete playing the quarterback position in all of college football.
Looking at a 2nd and 7. Kevin Johnson, the dangerous one, is slotted off to the left. Quentin Spotwood is down to your right toward the bottom. Michigan shows a zone over there against the slot man. He looks away from it, comes Spotwood, and he is slammed by Whitley at the 36-yard line, short of the first down. Somewhat surprisingly, Donovan McNabb looked off the left side where he had a soft corner.
But what he's doing with this three-step drop is he's preventing Michigan from generating any type of pass rush. But a good sign for Michigan is that solid tackle by Whitley. Last week in the second half against Notre Dame, Michigan was absolutely terrible tackling.
Coming up now with a 3rd down and 2 here for Syracuse. The option, a great play. They line up in the shotgun. Conrad is right next to him. Comes back right side, got it, put it in Jackson's hands for another first down inside the 30-yard line. Syracuse showing even arrogance on this drive, Dan. Lining back up that time and just firing to the open man for the first down.
Absolutely no pass rush from Michigan. In fact, they didn't get a sack last week against Notre Dame. So against a couple of mobile quarterbacks, and we haven't even seen McNabb when he's most dangerous. And that's when they do get a powerful pass rush, when he can use his scrambling ability and get guys open in the secondary.
7 yards per attempt. And he's perfect on all 4 attempts for 29 yards. You keep that up, you'll cause this Michigan defense a lot of trouble here this afternoon. Handed off to McIntosh. McIntosh is stopped in the center. Picked up about a yard as the Wolverines close down on him.
But the one thing that this Orangeman offense will do is it spreads the field with 4 wide receivers and the option play across the width of the field. But with the speed of the outside receivers, Kevin Johnson runs a 4-3, and Quentin Spotwood, who's a 4-4 guy, they can also stretch the field down the field. Look for Syracuse at this point to go deep before they get too crowded in the red zone.
2nd down and 8. The slot man is off to the left. He's going to look in that direction. Fire at the first down. Had it. It's complete, and it's a Syracuse first down. Quentin Spotwood Number 8, been timed in 4-4. Great hands, goes and get the ball when you gotta have it.
And after the play action, watch McNabb get his feet set and just come right over the top. Watch where the ball hits the receiver, right in the chest. Every pass he's thrown so far in this first drive has been right on the chest.
The Michigan offense better get ready. This is about to become a shootout if Syracuse can score on this first drive. And they have moved to the 12-yard line. First down for the Orangemen. There's the option. Michigan read it. He stepped inside Whitley. McNabb with a great run and out of bounds. It'll be first and goal for Syracuse. Whitley had the play read perfectly. And McNabb simply stepped inside of him and ran for the big gain.
And it was a corner blitz by Whitley. Brent, from the right side, you'll see number 5 come in, attacking number 5 in the orange helmet. But this is the poise of McNabb. Doesn't even bother to fake Whitley, just knows he's got Conrad out in front and one wide receiver, Daniel, and that's a huge gain.
McNabb with his tight end to the right. They split the backs with that wishbone looking at backfield that you're so familiar with if you follow Syracuse. Down the line comes McNabb. Now he pitches it out. Corner, touchdown on their opening drive. Kevin Johnson steps into the end zone. He moved from his wide receiver spot, came to the left halfback, and brought it around to the corner, and Syracuse strikes first.
About as perfect an opening drive as you'll ever see anyone. Johnson is the wide receiver who lines up in the backfield. There's the poise and the patience of McNabb, and the speed of Johnson outraces the blue and maize to the corner of the end zone.
Here is Nate Trout. What a wonderful opening drive for Syracuse. 4 different running backs, 3 different receivers, and the senior quarterback moves it around as Nate Trout adds the extra point. The Orangemen strike first. It'll be Michigan's turn when we come back.
Your kids give you plenty to worry about. Your car shouldn't. That's why you need a Chevy Lumina. It'll go up to 100,000 miles before its first scheduled tune-up. So get a Lumina and relax. They'll grow out of it. You did, didn't you? And you can look forward to Lumina's great resale value.
Trust. We are not born with an instinct to trust. Trust must be earned. Trust must be proven. We earn it with integrity. We prove it with sound advice. Trust is the ultimate measure of our success. And that is why we measure success one investor at a time.
Home Depot is very serious about paint. We want to be your paint store.
We are a real paint store.
You go to paint, you can get everything. You can get the rollers, you can get your paint.
You're going to need drop cloths, we've got that. You're going to need ladders, we've got ladders.
Because you can get more than just quality paint. You can get your paint, you can get all your supplies.
We can mix paint, we can color match paint. We've got everything you need to get a paint job done.
We can custom tint anything. I mean, you could bring in your shirt and we could match your shirt.
We have the products and the product knowledge that the paint stores have, if not more of it.
It's Thrifty Car Rental's 40th birthday, so let's get the show on the road. Call 1-800-4CARS. There's something special going on at Thrifty Car Rental and Blockbuster Video. You rent a car from Thrifty, you get a free movie rental from Blockbuster Video. Just ask. When you rent a car at Thrifty, you'll drive home with a free movie rental from Blockbuster Video. Get the show on the road with Thrifty Car Rental and Blockbuster Video. Call 1-800-4CARS.
Can't be ready? Well, we made it. Tuesday, 9 o'clock. 8 Central, right, Mike?
Spin City, season premiere, Tuesday, September 22nd.
It was a classic scoring drive. Coaches talk about balance. 39 yards rush, 39 yards pass, 78 yards for a touchdown. And now Trout with the ball on the tee, and Michigan will handle it for the first time. And, of course, it was special teams and a huge fumble by this young man against Notre Dame, determined today Clarence Williams. He's your middleman, standing back there at the 2-yard line. High kickoff from Trout right at the goal line. Coming out. 5. He's got the 20 in a hole. Battles his way to the 29-yard line. Dan, let's go back to the score.
And let's look at regular speed at these two guys out here. Marcus Ray, 29, and Dhani Jones. And this is what is going to cause Michigan problems today, is the speed of Syracuse, especially on this option. Johnson just runs away from 3 Wolverines and scores easily. But on that drive, Brent, not one negative play for Syracuse. Every play they ran was a positive play.
Evan Coleman will open at fullback. They had a fumble from that position last week also. Williams is your tailback. And of course the quarterback is Tom Brady. He threw for 267 yards. A week ago you couldn't blame Tom. They put it into Williams' hands and he slashes out to the 32-yard line. And here is your lineup. We mentioned Tom Brady, but Clarence Williams today had 114 yards against the Irish for that big fumble. Now Jeremy Tooman is the tight end that Syracuse really fears here today. He caught only 2 passes versus the Irish. John Jansen, 6'7", 299-pound offensive tackle. He must lead this Michigan running revival as they come up now with a 2nd and 7. And Brady swings it on out. Nice catch by Williams. Tries for the corner. Penalty flag has been thrown. Coming back was Ty Street. And as he came back, he committed the infraction.
Yeah, it's going to be an illegal block against Ty Streets, and that wipes out a good play by the Wolverines. But maybe if he didn't make the illegal block, it wouldn't have been such a good play.
Now here is the defense, and this line faces a huge challenge here today. They were just okay against Tennessee. Mark Pilon passed up the Canadian Football League to come back for his final year. Keith Bullock from New York City has moved to the middle. He led the team in tackles against the Volunteers. And the nickel man, folks, David Byrd, track star, returns after a year off. He's the fastest man on the team, Dan.
And he will be used in a 3-man rotation on the corner. Byrd, McIntosh, and Will Allen. Will Allen, who got called for that pass interference call last week against Tennessee.
2nd 17, and so Anthony Thomas checks into the backfield alongside Brady. Has time, fires, picked off at the 31-yard line. Intercepted by David Byrd, the nickel man. What a story he is. Was watching television, the Fiesta Bowl, and said, I miss football, and came back to the team. And he stands in there and makes the pick.
And he reads the receiver's route, gets a little push there, but look at the quickness as he steps in front of Marcus Knight there. This is a great interception. As a quarterback, you are told to throw the ball to the inside. It looked like Knight did not come back to the ball, and Brady led the defensive back perfectly.
If you're a Michigan fan or a coach right now, you're holding your breath. There's 7 up on the board, and here comes the magic man again. Donovan McNabb, a senior. He has started all 4 years. He's one of the most experienced quarterbacks in the land. Moving his receivers around. Spotwood now outside left. Bring option down to the short side of the field and keeping it. Swiveling his hips and finally out of bounds at the 26-yard line. And that was Brackens who drove the quarterback out.
It's great to watch McNabb operate on this option because he doesn't ever look like he's out of control or in a hurry or panicking. He shouldn't. He's a senior. He's been around for quite a while at Syracuse. But to his patience to read the defense and then get positive yards and then get down or out of bounds and avoids the hit.
2nd down and 5 for the Orangemen. Asquiloni's team on the drive again. They had a lengthy walkthrough practice yesterday in Ann Arbor. Fumble, and there's their problem. On the center exchange, the same thing that affected them last week against Tennessee, and Bowen, the center, is able to pounce down on the ball. And you've got to wonder, Dan, what the problem is. You've got a 2nd-year center, 4th-year quarterback, and they just cannot connect. And we will take you back last week against Tennessee and show you all these problems.
Well, and when you fumble the quarterback exchange, the center exchange, even if you don't recover it, or if you do recover it, you've lost a play. And this is unbelievable. Last week, 3 times against Tennessee. Nothing on the first drive, but the second play of this drive, and leaving it on the grass again.
the bad news for Syracuse is they fumbled it. The good news is they got it back. And now they face Michigan with a 3rd down and 5. Darrell Daniel will go wide left. Spotwood comes down to the right. The backs are split. McNabb straight back. Left side, he's all alone. It's a touchdown. Conrad. A defensive breakdown, and Conrad was all alone. He goes into the end zone for the 2nd touchdown. Nobody was over there. I have never heard the largest crowd in college football as quiet as they are right now. There's a few orange-shirted fans cheering, but folks, the air has just gone out of the big house. And Johnson will hold it for Nate Trout, his 2nd extra point. And just like that, touchdown on the opening drive. Then they turn an interception into their 2nd score.
McNabb proving that he can read defenses from the pocket as well. You will never, ever see a running back, wide receiver, tight end any more wide open than Rob Conrad.
There's trouble in River City, folks.
Hey, can you play Macarena?
Yeah, would you play Smoking Broken Heart? Hey, man, my girl left me. Could you send out a tune?
I want my baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back, baby back rib. I want my baby baby back rib. I got my baby back rib.
Work piling up? That's the perfect time to declare a national holiday. National Car Rental's declaring every day a national holiday. With our great holiday rates, you can escape to the outdoors. Or the golf greens. Or just about anywhere else by renting a midsize from National in Florida or California for only $159 per week. At this rate, you can't afford to stay home. So call National Car Rental now. And declare your own national holiday.
I've noticed something. There are more and more things to do these days.
So how's my afternoon look?
And less time to do them.
Just overnighted.
Where did all this free time go?
Into a computer, probably.
You want a Chevy Cavalier. It can go up to 100,000 miles before its first scheduled tune-up. So you have more time for everything else in your life. Get the car that's easy to own. A Cavalier. And if you have any of that free time...
Send it to me.
Genuine Chevrolet. Cars more Americans trust.
And a huge defensive error here.
Watch Dhani Jones. His eyes are already looking at McNabb. Here's Conrad. He's going to slip out of the backfield. And not only is he wide open, but there's total confusion in the secondary. You see Hendricks take the bite on the tight end. In fact, they had 3 guys covering the tight end, and I'm not sure where Dhani Jones was headed. Looking at the quarterback, thinking about that option maybe.
And in pursuit of number 44. And again, the NFL scouts will tell you he is the top-rated senior fullback in the country as of right now. He's got speed. That time, he didn't need any speed. Fargas has checked in for Michigan. Fumbles in the end zone and elects to come out anyway. Down at the 16-yard line. Oh, my. Let's check in now with John Saunders in New York. John?
Brent, it's time for the Burger King update. Remember last year, UCLA blows out Texas 66-3. They're at it again. Lewis to Freddie Mitchell, 34 yards to Brian Pauly-Dixon, touchdown. And Jermaine Lewis has added a 4-yard touchdown run as well. 14-0 already. Brent.
Well, John, if you're a Texas fan, that's the bad news. The good news is not yet 66-3.
And it's early, as it is here for Michigan fans.
We had a penalty. And I believe it's going to be taken back again. And this will bury Michigan inside the 10-yard line. Oh, my. Lloyd Carr looking at the kind of start that he never experienced a year ago when he won a co-national championship. along with Nebraska, an undefeated season, and now a team facing an uphill battle. No Charles Woodson, no Brian Greasy. Got to do it with new faces. First down and 18 now. Clarence Williams back in. Michigan offsets the fullback. Play fake. Going to throw from the end zone. Going to go deep. Streets out there. No. Overthrown.
Part of Michigan's offensive goal for this week, offensive coordinator Mike DeBoer told us that he wants his team to get 200 yards rushing, 200 yards passing, but the most important thing is in the rushing. More consistent runs. 150 yards last week, but if they didn't have the consistent 5 to 6 yard gain, they busted a couple of long ones.
Watching, knowing now more than anything he needs points. Here's Williams tripped up at the 5-yard line. It's going to be third down and long for Michigan.
As far as George DeLeon, the defensive coordinator for Syracuse, is concerned, wants to keep Michigan under 150 yards. That means they won't have ball control, under 17 points. But the 5 drives with 3 plays and outs is key because it goes back to the fact that they want to win the battle of field position. This will help Syracuse special teams, which are absolutely excellent.
The 2 freshman wideouts for Michigan, David Terrell and Marquise Walker from Syracuse, are in the game. This is the 4-pack, and they elect to run out of it, and Michigan must punt. The crowd did not like that play call. They saw the field spread wide with 4 wideouts, and they wanted Carr's team to put it up, and they did not. This crowd will grow restless. They were not happy with losing to Notre Dame, one of their arch rivals, and now they trail Syracuse by 2 scores early with Jason Benson, who did not punt all that well in South Bend. Almost got it, and Benson, second hop Spotwood fields it, and go down in a hurry. That was great coverage that time for Michigan as they get back down there and bring him down. Donovan McNabb off to a great start at the Big House.
How sweet it is to be loved by you.
At National, we always thought of ourselves as the top car rental company, and now we're glad to see that our customers agree.
How sweet it is to be loved by you.
You see, according to a J.D. Power & Associates study, National's just been ranked the highest car rental company in customer satisfaction in a tie. Thanks. We couldn't have done it without you.
How sweet it is to be loved by you. How sweet it is.
Let's go.
Welcome back to that same old place that you laughed about. Who'd have thought they'd lead you? Who'd have thought they'd lead you? Here where we need you. Here where we need you. Yeah, we tease him a lot, 'cause we got him on the spot. Welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
If you ask us, it just tastes better.
Head out on the highway, looking for adventure, and whatever comes our way. Oh yeah, here and God are gonna make it. Born to be wild, born to be wild.
Here at Michigan Stadium, the Syracuse Orangemen have gone up by 2 touchdowns, 14-zip. And it's excellent news for an area that was decimated by storms all last week, early in the week. The team had to practice in their regular area, but in the Carrier Dome, and that was a little bit different than they were used to, Brent.
Well, here is Donovan McNabb again, keeping it, banging for the first down, crossing midfield. And I am not sure that Michigan has a clue about stopping Syracuse as I watch this game unfold. Now, the Orangemen might stop themselves, and they did botch a center snap. But I am watching the option work. I am watching receivers break wide open when they need it. And I am seeing Michigan just reeling right now.
And this is one of their better players, Dahani Jones, on the option, not attacking the quarterback so that he would pitch it to McIntosh and then not having the speed to catch up with the quarterback.
You gamble when you change positions during the week. Frequently, you weaken 2 rather than strengthening 1. First down and 10. Syracuse inside the 50 again. McNabb off a play fake and a foot race. Look at that arm. Beautiful strike. Throwing against his body as he went over to the sideline and hitting his tight end, Stephen Bromensky from Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania.
This is what happens when you run the option well. The tight end is going to sneak down to the corner of the field here and watch the Michigan players as they come up on the play action.
Just over the Michigan 20-yard line.
Great fake by the quarterback and the tailback, and another Syracuse Orangeman wide open in the secondary.
There's a whole lot of folks better count on Ohio State and Penn State to carry the banner for the Big Ten. Injured player down on the field right now, and that'll give us just an opportunity to break away. An ABC Sports presentation of college football brought to you by Genuine Chevrolet, the car's more Americans trust. The Home Depot, America's home improvement coach. National Car Rental. So what are we waiting for? Let's go. And Chili's, a proud sponsor of ABC College Football.
Syracuse lost to a very good Tennessee team last week by 1 point, and a lot of people were wondering whether Pasqualoni would pare his offense and his defense down, make it a little bit more simple to eliminate some of the mistakes they made. He said there's no way. Offensively and defensively, we are who we are. We are going to play wide open football, and they are certainly doing that on offense so far today.
Eric Bracken's number 51, a quick look.
Hard to tell how Bracken got hurt delivering the blow on the quarterback.
And in for the first time right now is Sam Sword. He was slowed by an injury, and Sword unable to start, so he steps in now to see if he can bail this defense out. It's a first down for Syracuse. Comes Conrad. Stood up that time as they ran him for the tailback spot, and that was a read from Michigan. Jake Freisinger, a sophomore who was a special team star a year ago. Good future ahead for Jake, and he makes the play that time.
We've seen 4 wide receivers. We've seen a wide receiver line up in that backfield. That time, the Orangemen came in with 3 tight ends and tried to run the power football right at Michigan. That's their worst play of the day so far.
First negative yardage, certainly, Dan. Second down and 12. Now Spotwood and Johnson overload to that left side. McNabb checks over there to see what the coverage looks like. Looks in that side, going to go underneath and hit Daniel swinging out of bounds at the 16-yard line. So Kevin Johnson, let's check that. I think I said it was Daniel. Kevin Johnson with another catch, the underneath man, and Jones in pursuit of him, Dan.
You know, it's easy to confuse them because they all wear team numbers or low numbers. They all run about the same. They look like great athletes, very fast, and they catch the ball well with their hands.
100 yards already and perfect. With now Jeff Lowe checking in, and they spread the field on 3rd and 6. Lowe with wonderful hands. The shotgun. Gonna go the fade, incomplete. It is clear that from upstairs, the Syracuse spies up here in the box say we can pass all day on these guys.
Pretty clear, Brent, that the one thing that McNabb did that time is he didn't force it. Knew he was in field goal range, saw his receiver covered, just let it go.
They tried 4 field goals against Tennessee after missing his first. He'll attempt a 33-yarder here against Michigan. And the numbers continue to go up for the Orangemen. A 17-point lead. 17-zip the Orangemen right now. And a reminder, primetime football, Sunday on ESPN. Drew Bledsoe and New England go back to work against Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. And then on Monday night on ABC, San Francisco travels east to take on Washington. Steve Young, coming off the overtime victory against the New York Jets, against the Redskins, who've got a quarterback problem of their own, Mr. Fouts.
Well, the one thing that I'm seeing today is that there's no problem with the guy wearing number 5. A legitimate Heisman Trophy candidate playing like one today. Had an outstanding game last week against Tennessee when he completed 78% of his passes. He's only missed once so far today.
There was an omen, folks, that we're going to show you right after this kickoff. There was an omen that this might be a tough day for the Wolverines. Something happened that has never happened here before. We're going to show it to you in just a moment. Clarence Williams back in as the deep man. A stunned Michigan team trailing by 17 points, and there are still, remember, 5:19 to go in the first. This is shades of what Oregon did to Michigan State last week in Eugene. A shorter kickoff. Williams on a bounce. Slips through and then down at the 22. You know the great tradition here at Michigan. Right under the M Club banner. Been doing it for years. The Victors is playing and the place is rocking. Last night, ladies and gentlemen, that was stolen. That's right. Somebody got into the Chrysler Fieldhouse, and so look at the banner they had to run under. Now you know that that's bad karma when that happens.
And I didn't do it.
Now that's not going to show up in a Syracuse fraternity house, is it? Huh? How about Michigan State up at what? You know, I don't know. I'm not going to blame you.
That was a sorry replacement, and the Wolverines are playing just as sorry. I've never seen a team so confused on defense as what we're seeing out of Michigan in this first quarter. With 5 minutes yet to go. Field position has been key for Syracuse, but every time they've had the ball, they've had maybe 2 plays that they had the one fumble snap, and then Conrad lost a couple of yards, but everything else they're doing is perfect.
Justin Fargas is in. Tom Brady, if you're wondering about the phenom Drew Henson, coaches said he wouldn't come in until the second, but Fargas, the freshman sensation from the West Coast, slides out at the 26-yard line, and a very interesting story. This is a young man who apparently was headed to USC. John Robinson had him all wrapped up. Then when they went through that turmoil out there and Robinson was ousted, Fargas said, maybe I don't want to go there after all. And I kind of like the Michigan tradition. And here he is right now. His daddy was Huggy Bear on Skarsky and Hutch. That's right. And his son, one of the best high school running backs in the country, whistled before the snap. Michigan problems, turnovers today. In case you just joined us, Syracuse took the opening kickoff down.
Prior to the snap, false start by the offense, 5-yard penalty, still second down.
He's got to like the numbers that Syracuse is racking up so far.
No excuse for him to lose track of the downs. You know, that's how I figure, right?
You know, in this era, in these days of home run hitters, Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa and Griffey and everything, they like to use the home run terminology about Fargas. They say with his speed, he can hit it out of the park.
They'll put Thomas in motion, and Fargas as the lone running back. A press front from Syracuse coming. They tried to set the screen, and he almost threw an interception to a lineman. Simpkins, 98, was right there, and Brady almost handed him another touchdown.
And the young freshman, Justin Fargas, went the wrong way on the screen. He goes left. Brady is looking to his right. The linemen are coming out on the screen to the right. Where's the running back? Brady can't see him. And then he almost throws an interception. That would have been a walk-in score for Syracuse. More mistakes for Michigan.
Third down and 11. The 4 wideout package. That means the 2 freshmen, Terrell and Walker, back out on the field. Brady looking for his first completion, and he has got it into Knight's hands, but not much of a gain. Michigan forced a punt as Phil Nash, their fine free safety from Florida, played a whale of a game last week against Tennessee. He comes up and makes the stop, and this young man, Drew Henson, from nearby Brighton, Michigan, better get that right arm ready. You know the story. A $2 million signing bonus from the New York Yankees. He's going to be in this game. Blocked. Partially blocked. A special team advantage for Syracuse again, and they're going to play with a field that's only 37 yards long.
And it was Pat Woodcock, number 16, a reserve wide receiver who got in. Remember the first punt, Jason Poole almost got the block. This time, Woodcock does, and again, more mistakes for Michigan. It's on offense, it's on defense, and now it's in special teams.
And Mr. Fouts, take a look at this from this angle. Low snap.
But Poles on the previous punt got real close to blocking one. And Woodcock gets his hands on this one.
And here comes Mr. McNabb. Donovan changing up the formation. Late pitch now to Kevin Johnson on the wing around, out of bounds at the 30-yard line. A reminder, next Saturday at 3:30 here on ABC, we've got college football regional action. Ohio State will take on Missouri. That's in Columbus. BYU will go to Seattle for Washington. Texas and Kansas State, Clemson, Virginia. So check your local listings and call your cable areas, cable operator, and see if you can get a couple of games.
And Lloyd Carr was concerned with how poorly Michigan tackled last week, their lack of aggressiveness, their bad kicking game, and then their offense not taking advantage of scoring opportunities. That hasn't been the problem, but the first three have certainly been a problem here in the first quarter.
Moving the tight ends over to the right-hand side. McIntosh slashes off the right side, so they came back with a basic power play against Michigan that time. Sam Sword making the stop, and the runner is down at the 26-yard line, but enough for a first down for Syracuse as they move the chains again.
You've got the wide receivers, Spotwood and Johnson and Daniel, and then the big fullback in Conrad. The guy that kind of gets lost in all this is McIntosh. He's only 5'8", if that. He lines up behind Conrad in that big offensive line. He's tough to see.
Ball at the Wolverine 26-yard line. First down for the Orangemen. Option to the wide side. McNabb keeps it. Could not slip the defender who was down that time as he was tripping up as he crosses the 25-yard line. That was Marcus Ray who was down, but he spoiled the play.
And we saw a lot of indecision on Michigan's part trying to stop the option earlier in the game. That was the best defense against the option. They were more aggressive. Marcus Ray went after the quarterback that time. Here's Dahani Jones, number 55 on the outside. He's going to take away the pitch. This is good team defense by Michigan.
Second down and 9. What's so tough about this is that McNabb and Syracuse will change up the look. Now they show a basic pro set with a slot man out to the right-hand side, and McNabb short drop, fires, wide open. Johnson having a field day down at the 16, and that's right around the first down marker. We'll wait and see on that. Ray all over the field defensively for the Wolverines.
Totally different type of offense the Wolverines are seeing this week than they saw last week against Notre Dame.
First down for the Orangemen. The chains are moved.
We talked about field position. Syracuse's average field position so far has been their own 49 when they've started drives. Half a field.
McIntosh and Conrad in front of him. First down for the Orange. It's a power I set. Two tight ends, and then they come off with the option. Look at McNabb tripped up in the backfield that time. It was number 28 for Michigan. That was Anthony Jordan who tripped him up. And let's go down to Jackaroo.
Well, Brent, you know a lot of people that follow Donovan McNabb know that off and on he tried out in the Syracuse basketball regime as a reserve. Well, this year, he wanted to dedicate his whole mind to football, knowing it was his last chance at football on the collegiate level. So he didn't go out for Boeheim's team. He elected to study film, and a lot of the coaches say that that single-mindedness is paying off right now. They said he wasn't distracted, and it's a more disciplined Donovan McNabb that comes up behind center.
All right, Jack, he's on the right hash now with a second down and 10. Going to throw the fake for a Spotwood. Going to go for the end zone. Got it running out of bounds. No, he stepped out. It is waved off. He stepped out of bounds. The field judge was right there on the call. Had a good look at it.
He stepped out of bounds long before the ball even got to him. James Whitley is number 5, and he's going to do a good job of forcing Spotwood too wide. And there is a great call by the official to see maybe just a little toe step on the sideline there.
141, and that is Bowen, the center, who was shaken up. Same kind of route has worked before for Syracuse. Last play of the game, this against Pittsburgh, Dan.
Well, it's the fade route, and when you have great athletes, they have a way to make time stand still as the ball comes. Total concentration. They block out the defender. They block out the field. They block out everything. Just concentrate on the ball.
Quentin Spotwood. He's a fine one along with Kevin Johnson. And, well, we've got an injured player still down. Let us check in with John Saunders in New York. John?
Brett, remember last year Florida State against NC State? Torrey Holt had 5 touchdown receptions. That was a record. This time it's on the punt return. Watch there. Takes a lick. Stays on his feet. Down the sidelines. Cuts it back 68 yards in the touchdown. A couple of quick scores for NC State, and they have the lead over Florida State 13-7. Meantime, UCLA leading Texas 21-3, picking up where they left off last year. Brent, back to you.
All right, John. You know, Dan, in watching that highlight that he showed, it is unusual to see a moment on the field when a Florida State player is not catching up with someone. I was struck by the speed of North Carolina State on that play.
And especially when it looked like the Seminole had the angle, and the returner just ran away from him.
So Bowen is being helped off, and this looks like it might be somewhat serious, judging from all the assistance. Obviously, we're going to hold up any definitive word, but it does mean that Syracuse, already troubled by a snap problem, is going to have to juggle at that position. And for Coach Pasqualoni, the offensive line was a very big question coming in here. Bowen, a 2-year starter there. Scott Kiernan, number 61, his left guard, is his best lineman. He started for 3 years.
Brent, as you take a look at them taking the Syracuse orange guy off, the center, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to tell you what's wrong with him. Paul Pasqualoni has a philosophy and a rule that's very similar to Joe Paterno's. You know, they both coach together. Reports injuries from the sidelines.
All right, Jack. Alexander, a redshirt freshman, steps into that center spot. He'll hike the ball to McNabb. Bobbled, there it is. Snap exchange. Michigan pounds on it this time. I'll be surprised if someone in a Michigan jersey is not there, but hold on. The way they're backing away from it.
And I'm real surprised that during the injury timeout that McNabb and Alexander didn't take any practice snaps.
Looks like they got it back, Dan, the way they're keeping the offense on the field. The defense still out there for Michigan. Just take a look at this. I thought for sure Michigan was going to get this one.
Looked like the ball came up to the quarterback, and if you're going to start pointing the finger at anybody, well, McNabb has fumbled twice today on center exchange from 2 different centers. It may be the quarterback's fault.
And McNabb with a save on that gives Trout a field goal opportunity of 35 yards. He can make this a 20-point lead. No good. Opportunity passed, and Michigan now will try to take advantage of it. They have been dominated, but the Syracuse center is out. And now Pasqualoni's defense will have to hold out. We've got a minute before we get to the second quarter, and remember the phenom Drew Henson is due to make his appearance here in the Big House.
And that missed field goal by Nate Trout has given the Wolverines a little bit of energy. Now it's important for them to just go out and make a first down. Let's take this in little steps here. We've got a lot of time left. Just make a first down here.
Brady still the quarterback as Anthony Thomas comes in. Michigan without a first down yet in this game. Thomas trying to do something about that. Out of bounds at the 29-yard line, and may have been just short of that as Keith Bullock, the middleman from New York City, field position. A huge story here.
Yeah, this is one of the goals that the Syracuse Orangemen wanted to attain today was to win the battle of field position. Mission accomplished.
Isn't that the truth?
So far.
Second down and 1. There's their first down of the game, and it took Anthony Thomas, the sophomore from Wingfield, Louisiana, to bang in there. Jason Poles making the stop, and missing that field goal has given the Wolverines their first lift. The big house starting to come alive.
And it's power running for Michigan. 2 plays in a row now from Thomas. One, he finished the play off with a great straight arm on the safety. That time he lowered his shoulder and punished the defender.
Knight will be the slot receiver over to the right. They send Ray Jackson, the fullback, out wide. We're going to run out of that formation with Jackson blocking on that side, on the short side of the field. And Thomas runs it to the 40-yard line for 4 yards before Greenwood. Moreland Greenwood from Freeport, New York, the linebacker, makes the stop. And Thomas now getting the carries. And remember, the young Fargus, the freshman, blew an assignment on a screen pass. We may not see him for a while.
No, it's Lloyd Carr told us he wanted to use all 3 of his running backs and see which one has the hot hand. Off of those last 3 carries, I'd say Anthony Thomas is going to be the guy.
Come to the end of the first quarter. It was a Syracuse explosion. Kevin Johnson running in. The interception by Bird, and the Orangemen weren't finished. They lead favored Michigan 17-0. Timeout.
I know a place.
This is not a country for wimps. We invented the cowboy, the jawbreaker, and the quarterback blitz.
I'll take you there.
We are rough on our cars. So get a Chevy Malibu. It'll go up to 100,000 miles before its first scheduled tune-up. Transmission fluid, 100,000 miles. Engine coolant, 5 years or 150,000 miles. We're talking tough. The car you knew America could build. The Chevy Malibu.
I'll take you there. Oh!
Select road. Validating tires.
What kind of road can you drive on with BF Goodrich tires?
Approved. Enjoy.
Any road you choose. BF Goodrich tires. Take control.
State Farm presents Rules of the Game.
Today we're talking about holding. In this play, the center has a takedown on the nose guard at the point of attack. What's the call?
Accidents happen, and no matter where or when they do, the world's largest claims service network gets on the case immediately. Prompt, personal claims service is no accident. So we can get you back on the road faster than you can say, like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Today we're talking about holding. In this play, the center has a takedown on the nose guard at the point of attack. The penalty is 10 yards from the spot of the foul.
Rules of the Game has been brought to you by State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
This is ABC Sports, home of the Bowl Championship Series.
In that first quarter, Syracuse ran 26 plays, averaging 6.6 yards a play. Michigan ran 11 plays and averaged only 3.1. The Wolverines will try to do something about that here in the second quarter. Brady hands it off. Thomas swallowed that time. Brian Coleman, the senior defensive tackle. And again, the big question about the Orangemen would be that defensive front here today.
And so far, Michigan has been able to pound the right side of the Syracuse defensive front for their best running plays. Brady had a hot start last week against Notre Dame when he was 5 for 5, only 1 for 4 with 1 pick in that first quarter.
Third down.
It is third down for the Wolverines, and the markers don't show nearly that much. I think the scoreboard is wrong, fellas, on the distance here. Here is the swing. They put it into Thomas's hands. Syracuse read it. Bullock. Now remember the story of Bullock. They moved him from the outside into the middle, that tough position in this defense, and he is holding up very well, thank you.
14 tackles last week against Tennessee, but I really don't like this play selection by Michigan. 3rd and 5 or 6, and they swing it out and lose yards.
This punt is off and into the hands of Spotwood. That great speed, looking for an alley, going to take the deep dip. Not going to get it to the 21. Michigan in hot pursuit. Dhani Jones, the starting linebacker, was among those chasing the quick one. We're going to take a break. Syracuse leads Michigan 17-6.
Gus, it just tastes better.
People smile and tell me I'm the lucky one, and we've just begun. Think I'm gonna have a son, and in the morning when I rise, you bring a tear of joy to my eyes and tell me everything's gonna be alright.
Insuring over 40 million people worldwide.
Let me tell you a story about the trucks that never sleep.
Got an early one, huh?
I better fill it up. It's the tough new line of Ford F-Series. With over 50 different models to custom fit the job. That's more than anyone else. And they all come with power you can count on. They're like some trusty sidekick in an old Western. Except this movie never ends.
See you tomorrow.
You can count on it. The Ford F-Series. The most powerful, most complete line of trucks ever built, Ford top.
So, I read an article that says they think about it every 8 seconds. I wouldn't doubt it. It seems like the only thing Dave ever wanted. They have one-track minds. It must be something biological or genetic.
Men, they're all the same.
Hey. You read my mind.
Tonight, ABC's college football goes prime time. The Fighting Irish of Notre Dame take on Michigan State.
The next offensive series, it'll be the phenom, Drew Henson, who will be quarterbacking the Wolverines. Right now, it is Donovan McNabb's show. 17-point Syracuse lead with Alexander, redshirt freshman, another problem, loose ball. Michigan says they've got this one. Michigan with a chance as Jordan recovers the fumble.
3 times last week, 3 times today, and this one could be the most damaging. You see Alexander with the ball out there, but that time looked like it came up short to McNabb, and that time Michigan covers it.
Big ovation for number 7 when I went past the Michigan den yesterday with my spotter, Brian Mulvison. The jersey 7 already hanging on the racks. All he's got to do is produce. Thomas, not much there as he's run out of bounds on the far side by a surging Syracuse defense. Greenwood, you know the most famous number in Syracuse history? And who were the 3 Michigan players to win the Heisman Trophy? That is our trivia question today. We thought we'd give you a layup, Michigan fans. You can think about that one.
Well, I know 2, and I know that you probably went to school with the other 3rd, or at least covered it, didn't you?
The first one. second down and 10. Once graced the cover of Life magazine, huh? Here he is, Henson's first throw, and it is complete. He hits Knight. Knight to the 16-yard line. So, his first pass in the big house. Now, he threw for a touchdown last week against the Irish late in that loss.
I thought he was pretty impressive against Notre Dame coming in as a freshman. The game was already lost, but he still went out and performed. Hit 5 out of 8. And that one touchdown pass to Tuman. The job by Knight here, giving the quarterback a good target, drifting to the outside away from the secondary, and then getting close to a first down.
3rd down and 4 for the Wolverines, their best chance of the day. Inside, gonna throw a fade, incomplete and out of the end zone. Streets, the intended receiver, and the safety, Nash, all over him as the Bruins continue to dominate Texas now, 21-3 in that game.
And that ball was so far over the head of the receiver, the official said that there was no pass interference. This is an interesting call, though. Lloyd Carr needs points. He's going to send out Feely to try to get 3.
Down by 17. It's 4th down and 4 yards to go for the first down. It's a fake. Brady throw back. Feely got it. No! Syracuse ball short of the first down as Phil Nash will not be denied. The fine safety for the Orangemen. The senior comes up and makes the play, and Michigan is short of the first down.
Yeah, but this guy's wide open right down the middle of the field. Watch as Brady rolls out here. Feely's going to come this way. The wingback goes right down the middle of the field. Would have been an easy touchdown. That's a great play by Phil Nash.
Michigan's gamble fails. Syracuse football when we come back.
Budweiser has 12 breweries located across the country. The Budweiser that you get from your local brewery is usually the freshest beer available in the marketplace. Budweiser sells very quickly. The average age of Budweiser on the shelf is about 40 days. Having local breweries ensures that your Budweiser is the freshest possible beer it can be by the time you purchase it.
Could roses eventually cost a dime a dozen? Will you ever buy options on a rock star? Is there potential in the bot? One thing's for sure, opportunities abound. And every day we look at them through a microscope. Like a peek. Let's get to work. Solomon Smith Barney.
The other day, Karen had to hurry to a surprise birthday party.
Honey, the doctor's on her way. Almost there.
So Karen didn't need any surprises from her car.
Just breathe. Breathe easy.
Ford Taurus has millions of real-life miles behind it. A reliable door-tech engine in it.
The doctor's here. I hear someone's in a hurry.
And I know 2 people. Make that 3 people. They were sure glad that she bought this car. Ford Taurus. It's built to last.
Donovan McNabb and the Orangemen, they're making like Houdini with these fumbles, Dan.
Well, to use an old cliche, they've dodged 3 bullets, 3 fumbles, but no points for Michigan.
And as a result, Donovan and the Orangemen have the football one more time here. We're still 12:42 to go in the first half. And Syracuse's defense, the most surprising element in this game so far, shutting Michigan's offense out. Here's the blitz. McIntosh cuts away from the blitz package and makes his way to the 18-yard line. So Michigan decided to send a backer after the run. Patman finally making the stop.
That really was a nice job of McIntosh staring down the gun barrel there, and the linebacker coming and got right by him for a short gain. Yeah, you might expect Syracuse, if they continue to have problems with the center exchange, to maybe use more shotgun.